and you represent.
Put this point down,
You represent the Israeli lobby.
The Israeli lobby? No, the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds.
You represent you have an organisation.
Israel Advocacy Movement.
Israel, you're the leader of this.
Yeah, I've read it. Yeah, the lead is a bit strong.
No problem. How are you doing, my friend? Say hello. Thank you, my friend. I see you guys here in this street. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for coming with you guys. Excellent. Now, Joseph, I want to, first and foremost, I want to say that I have seen your post about the Tommy Robinson thing, yeah?
Yeah.
So, just to let everyone know, Tommy Robinson came a long time ago and we were trying to moderate the audience and stuff like that. And Joseph had this fair-minded approach, you know. He said that, you know, he gave us credit. He said my name personally on it. This came to me recently. Mohammed Hijab and Ali Dawah and Hussein. Yeah, so he said that we were trying to defuse the situation. So this made me think that, you know, Joseph Cohen has a fair-minded side to him. And I hope that today the fair-minded side will come out, because here's something.
Before we do, because you clearly rehearsed this. And
I thought about this 2 minutes before I came.
But you're pulling something on your phone.
Yes,
and what happens in these conversations is somebody comes with a pre-script. So rather than you come with your pre-script, can we just talk openly? But rather than just going to one maybe specific instance in history, I'm assuming this is going to be Israel-Palestine.
Yeah, no, what it was is, can I just show you? It's just literally small, yeah? Because this is something that's happening at the moment, yeah? So here, this is a minute video, right? As you can see here in the video.
I know the video. So before, it's the video where a Palestinian from Gaza who is approaching the fence is shot. It took place in December, and he's shot. And when he's shot, and it looks at it appears like he's fatally injured.
Yes.
When you hear two people in the background cheering. Now within Judaism, and I don't like talking religion, I like talking politics, because religion is religion, it's faith, it's hard to argue, but politics is very real. And I'm going to actually bring a quote. In the Torah it says, or in the Tanakh it says, we shouldn't rejoice when our enemies fall. So the Israeli position is this person was approaching the fence. I can't remember if it was the plant one, but it was
an unarmed guy.
No, okay, you can't. You can see a video. The Israeli position is different. But I don't want to get caught up on the details. What happened was when no. So the Israelis say he was attempting a terror attack. The Palestinian position is he was unarmed.
Someone evidence that he's armed.
So the Israeli. So there's an open investigation. What I want to say, rather than caught up in the details.
Right, go ahead.
What I wanted to say was this has actually been. So just for the cameras, when he's shot, two people in the background.
Celebrating.
You hear them cheering.
Yeah.
And can I just say, the Israeli society was repulsed by this. It was headline stories. The IDF has opened an investigation on this. So my thing was, rather than focus on this, because
you condemn this.
So I absolutely, whatever happens, when somebody, even if they are carrying out a terror attack, you should not rejoice when they fall. That's what my religion teaches me.
Okay.
So that's
so you condemn the IDF on this.
So I explicitly stated and it's not we don't know who. There's two people in the background.
No, the guy that shot.
No.
He said shoot him.
So there's a guy with the binoculars.
Yes.
There's a guy who's the actual sniper, and there were two people in the background. The IDF has opened up an investigation on this. So I'm saying, I'm very, very pleased.
So those guys that shot, the unarmed civilians.
So you're saying he's unarmed civilian?
Condemn them.
Do you know the name of the man?
I don't know anything about it.
So that's what I'm saying. How do you know he's unarmed? Because you've read that on your news sources. My news sources say
what we saw was that he was unarmed. Because when he was approaching the border.
Sorry. How do you know someone's unarmed? Someone can have a gun.
Because you can visibly see that he has no actual guns.
The picture, with the greatest respect, is very poor resolution.
But you can
very
see. You can see them.
Okay, let's not get caught up on the detail. I'm saying, like all of Israeli society, irrespective of what happened, the cheering should never have happened. And if it was an unarmed civilian, then absolutely I would condemn that. I don't know for sure if that is. But what I think is a much more healthy.
Would you agree that? Sorry. I'm happy. I mean, it's not. We don't need to get caught up on, like you say, the details. But you would say, would you accept that Israel, especially in recent times, has committed these excesses against the civilians?
So I'll give you a real example. Yeah. So 2 weeks ago, 400 people were slaughtered in 1 week in Syria. Barely anybody noticed it in the world. 18 on the first night of the first day of the Friday protests in Gaza. The first Friday, 18 Gazans were killed. 18 Palestinians were killed. 12 of them, my goodness. Okay, I feel like I'm addressing a White House press conference at the moment. So we've got CNN fake news. We've got. There's a lot of camera for those that can't see. There's certainly like 10 cameras on us. This side's my good side. So what I was saying, Mohammed, is 18 people were killed. 12, all of them were of fighting age. All of them were male. 12 of them, Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Fatah, have mentioned were militants from their organisation.
So you're talking just to kind of step back. You're talking about the protests.
Yeah, talking about the protests.
And those protests which were met with the resistance of the IDF.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're saying from that, this is the
I'm saying of the fatalities.
The official statistics is that there were 18 people.
Yeah, on the first day.
Fine, no problem. The first day. Okay, fine. Let's take that as a figure. No problem. Yeah. Do you accept that should not have happened in a state that calls itself democratic and that aims to protect the rights of...
It is not democratic. When was the last election in Gaza?
I'm not talking about Gaza. I'm talking
you're talking about Israel. I was like, well, they haven't had elections there in 12 years. We can't call Hamas democratic.
So I'm talking about Israel. So Israel calls itself democratic, which means that protest is one of those emblems for democracy, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah. So this, again, if it was protest, if that was women and children that had been shot,
so long as it's men, it's okay.
No. What were they doing? What
protesting?
What is Hamas called this protest for? And why did Fatah condemn? Okay, so
you've just said that 12 people.
I talked to you, not the cameras.
I apologize. You just said. I'm using your words. I don't want to get caught up in, like you said, the statistics. You said that there were 12 from Hamas and from Islamic Jihad, which that would suggest that were 6 that were not.
No. So six men of fighting age.
Yeah, fine.
Islamic Jihad and Fatah and Hamas didn't claim, but they very easily could be militants.
No problem. But we know that from the history of Hamas and also other Islamic groups like it, that whenever they have an opportunity to claim people on their side, they do so.
That's
right?
not true.
No, very true.
That's categorically not true.
Okay.
What's been shown is whenever there is conflicts in Gaza, they will strip military uniforms from Hamas operatives that are killed and dress them in civilian clothes so they can claim their civilian casualties.
Joseph, you're an intelligent man. Whenever is a very generic term. Okay, so we can't say that in every situation where there's been casualties that process has taken place.
No, I'm not saying every situation. I'm saying that there's evidence that Hamas do this.
Right, okay, no problem. Even if we accept that, right?
Yeah.
6 people, let's say, 6 individuals, according to yourself. I don't want to get caught up.
Do you know what Fatah said about this?
Sorry, to finish off the statement. 6 individuals who are protesting were killed by the IDF. Do you regret that?
So why were they killed?
So do you condemn that or not?
No, so I'm asking you, why were they killed? We have to have a conversation.
Because they were protesting.
Just because they were protesting.
Yeah, just like
there was 30,000 people protesting. Why weren't 30,000 people killed? What was the difference between these 18 and the other 17 to 30,000, depending on whose statistics?
We said specifically we've got to focus on fatalities. Yeah?
No. So you're saying they were killed for protesting. So I'm responding to that and asking, why were the other 17,000 to 30,000, depending whose numbers you trust?
Nice.
Why were they not killed?
I'll tell you the reason why. Depending on the size and the scale of the protest. Now, if you look at the first and the second intifadas, the first and the second intifadas in 1987, the first one, and in the 2000s, the second one. The second intifadas saw a much higher death rate of Palestinians, of over 3,000 or 4,000.
Let me phrase it in a different way.
Right,
really, where were they killed? Where were the 18 people who were killed? Where were they killed?
So you're talking about the border, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Okay, so
they should be killed.
Let me quote the Fatah. Let me quote Fatah. Fatah came out and explicitly condemned Hamas. They said Hamas immobilized. Hamas wants 2 things from the protest.
Okay, no problem. I mean, this is aside the question I'm asking.
No, it's not. You can't dictate the terms of the debate.
No problem. Go ahead.
So Hamas called a protest because they wanted to breach the fence, yeah? And that's why they've got all the tyres which they're burning, and you can watch the videos of Palestinians trying to cut through the fence and cut through the barbed wire, because the Palestinians Hamas want the fence breached. Now, why do they want armed militants who are shooting on Israeli positions to breach the fence? Why?
Who's armed militants?
So Hamas, your videos I can show you.
We're not talking about the armed militants here.
No, we are. We just said that armed militants of Hamas were killed.
No, we said 12 of those were killed. And then now I'm just focusing on 6 lives.
Okay, I'm saying we don't know if they're militants or not.
Okay,
but we're asking where were they killed, and they were killed trying to breach Israel's border.
Right, Joseph,
Hamas
with the greatest of respect, here we're in a forum of true discussion and debate. But it seems like what you're doing, I'm happy that in the beginning, okay, and and the people would be a witness to this. In the beginning, you did actually say, you condemned the fact that those people were celebrating the death of that man.
That happened in December. That was nothing to do with these protests. But
You said that you regret that, or you condemned that. Yeah. Then you tried to kind of say that it wasn't the IDF that did it, or people among the IDF.
No, the IDF shot. There were two people.
But there were some other people that were doing that, and you were saying that it wasn't the IDF.
No, I'm not saying anything. I'm saying I don't know who they were. There were two of the parties.
They could have been the IDF.
It could have been, or could not have been.
Then we talked about the deaths of those individuals in the protest.
Yeah.
The 6 individuals that were killed, and then that were not part of Hamas, according to yourself, not according to...
No. I never said that. You're putting words in my mouth. I said Hamas and Islamic Jihad have claimed 12. Fatah have claimed some of the ones that Hamas claimed were their militants.
Okay, no problem. And then we said there were 6 that were not in that category. Now, all I want you to do here is I want you to realize something very important, right? For us to be intellectually honest with ourselves, and for us to be fair, and just like you were when you praised myself and Ali Dawah and these things, I want you to do the same thing. When we talk about not just the history of the first and the second Intifada, I'm not going to go beyond that because we're going to go into the 80s, the deep 80s.
But again, you're dictating the terms of where the conversation goes. And this is one of the things I really don't like about Speaker's Corner, is you get a big crowd of people and someone dictates the terms of the conversation.
Well, I was just about to finish the question. Now you can ask me, you're free to ask me whatever question you want, as you have been. But I was just going to say that in those instances, it's very clear that the IDF have been responsible for the excesses, for certain excesses, and they have been responsible for the death of civilians. Now what I'm saying is, that kind of thing, in my opinion, should be condemned very blatantly by people like yourself.
Okay, so I'll respond. So when IDF soldiers don't follow protocol and kill civilians, they're hauled in front of the Israeli judicial sentence.
Do you reckon that works? Do you reckon that the judiciary in Israel, works in a systematic way so as to ensure the minority status of those Muslim Palestinians living within their own state and those living within the Palestinian territory? Do you think they do that?
So you're saying, I believe that they are the judiciary are incredibly moral. They're always in conflict with the government.
So you think
they're always overruling the government.
So why didn't they overrule the government's positions on settlements?
So we're jumping around, but I'm happy to go to settlements. First and foremost, define for the cameras what a settlement is.
So what I understand of settlements is that when you're building infrastructure, and in your case, you actually, not your personal case, but in the case of the Israeli government, they're building literally land and towns now. I see cities being built on land which is clearly not their land.
Okay, so let's go there. So you're saying not their land. So what is Palestinian land? Define the borders.
The Palestinian territories after 1967, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, you're saying that they're building settlements on Palestinian land?
My own personal opinion.
No, for the settlement claim, based on the settlement. So when you're talking about settlements building on someone else's land, what's the borders of the land that they're building on?
We know the borders. According to the UN, they say things like, okay, so we know about Jerusalem, that it's an international city, for example, that it doesn't belong to anyone in particular. Then when we talk about the West Bank,
sorry, where does it say that? Are you talking about the original 1947 partition plan? Which was rejected by both the Israelis and the Palestinians?
No, I'm talking about according to the UN, who does Jerusalem belong to?
So Jerusalem, according to the United, but then I'm answering your border question, so I'll answer that. But I want to know, first and foremost, what are the Palestinians? Yeah,
that's part of it.
Okay, so you're saying Jerusalem's an international city, so anyone building in Jerusalem effectively is a settler. So whether that Palestinian or Israeli, they're settlers, yeah? If it's an international city.
So no, I'm saying according to the UN.
Yeah, so
according to the UN. Yeah. According to the UN. Okay, so Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem. I'm not sure what the specifics, but I think Eastern Jerusalem has been designated as an international city or something like that.
No. Okay, so I'll tell you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But having said that, the borders, there is consensus among anyone who's ever read international law that what's happening in the West Bank is settlement in a land which is does not belong.
You have to give.
So what in your opinion is Israel?
So I can by opinion what Israel is.
Yes, please go ahead. Does it extend to Egypt and Sinai Peninsula and beyond?
Nonsense. No.
No. Okay. Because you were talking about I'm just asking you, right? Because you and I both know that from a rabbinical perspective, a lot of rabbis have actually said that Israel is what extends from the Euphrates River to the Nile.
Which rabbi said that?
Many rabbis have said this.
Which one?
I'll send you the links. No
Okay,
problem. I'll
so
send
the
you links.
cameras, I'm not aware of any rabbi. What the Torah
What
talks
the
about
Torah
is
talks
the biblical territory.
Yeah,
it
that's
talks
the
about
biblical
between the
territory.
two rivers.
Rivers, right.
Not
From
the
the-
Nile and Euphrates. That's speculation on your part.
Okay, so
so
what
we
is
don't know the rivers. We don't know. Some say it's one of the rivers in Sinai. I've forgotten the name of it.
What river in Sinai?
So I've forgotten the name, unfortunately, but not the Nile. It's not the Nile. It's a
What
smaller
river
one.
in Sinai? I don't know what it's called.
Okay, it's not very
The two
competitive.
great rivers.
But anyway,
you've got the Euphrates and you have the Nile.
it doesn't say great rivers. It says the two rivers.
Pardon?
No, it's not. Anyway, this is a boring thing for people.
No, what
but
I'm
just to
asking
come
you
back,
is,
just
what do you see as Israel?
Yeah, exactly.
So is it? Because now I don't want to go beyond 1948 and still talk about the Balfour Declaration because I would just say
Balfour
to you.
Declaration's got nothing to do with Israel's modern borders. When the Balfour
actually, it has
Declaration,
everything to do with it.
How?
Okay, when the Balfour Declaration was
When the Balfour Declaration was written,
Yeah.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
What do you mean?
In 1917,
Okay.
Britain was not a sovereign power in that region.
But it was a colonial power.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Britain were awarded the mandate after the Ottoman Empire collapsed.
you don't
they
you
took
don't
the
consider
mandate
that colonialism?
Britain took the mandate
Wait,
in
that's
1921.
quite weird, isn't it?
Listen,
that is weird.
Listen. Instead of just you're saying in 1917,
Yes.
Britain was a sovereign power over that region. It wasn't. They
I
got the
didn't
mandate.
say that. I said it was a colonial power.
A colonial power. It wasn't a colonial power either.
So
they
you
didn't
think-
get the
wait,
mandate
hold
until
on.
1921.
Hold on.
They weren't a power there.
I know the mandate is something, but the mandate. I start the clock when Britain, when the first soldiers went into Palestine.
Okay, but that
British
was
soldiers.
part of World War One, though, no?
World War.
Yeah, they were fighting
Yes, it
in
was.
World
Yes,
War
it was.
One.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, this is so many tangents. We're going to get lost.
The
You asked me
point
about
being is
Israel.
they were a colonial power. Then they handed over land to the immigrants from
They
Europe.
didn't. Your history is wrong.
Tell me why it's wrong.
Okay, so we'll go through the history very quickly.
Well, let's go back Chaim Weizmann when he talked about Uganda being an alternative.
Time Wiseman, no, it wasn't. That was the Uganda plan,
Yes.
which was actually part of Kenya, and it was Herzl. Nothing to do. Anyway,
Wiseman- Wiseman rejected it.
People can fact check.
He rejected one part of it, which is good.
People can fact check this all for themselves on the internet. What I want to say, which is really important,
Go ahead.
is your history. So Britain, when they wrote the Balfour Declaration, which was that Britain would support a national home in that region, didn't have any territory in that region. Yeah.
They became a colonial power.
Yeah,
At least let's start no problem. 1924, the British mandate to rule Palestine. No problem.
Can you ask this guy not to heckle, please?
Yeah, don't know. 1924. Let's say no issues. Yeah. Let's say 1924. Had it not been,
So Britain were awarded the mandate
Okay.
on the condition they honour the Balfour Declaration.
Okay.
Yeah. What was British Mandatory Palestine? What was its borders? Do you know? And the viewers won't know either, so it doesn't matter if you know or don't
Don't
know.
tell me
British,
now, though.
British Mandatory Palestine was Jordan, Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. Yeah.
Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan part of that.
Jordan was part of British Mandatory Palestine. Britain said they supported a Jewish national home as long as it didn't come at the expense of anyone in that region. Yeah. So the first thing the
Here, I
British
fast forwarded to
So
Chaim
can I
Weizmann
just
and Uganda
can I
plan.
just finish?
You said that it wasn't
Can I
Chaim
just
Weizmann.
this is can I just finish my point?
Yes, go ahead.
So British Mandatory Palestine was divided. 70% of the land was given to the Arabs. The first thing the British did when they took
And do
sovereignty
you reckon
over
that's all right?
the first thing the British did when they took sovereignty of the land, when they took ownership of the land or mandate of the land, they gave the largest amount of land possible to the Arabs. The Jews expected
they're based it on population.
The Jews, yeah, I've got no issue with them doing that. I agree. Jews were a smaller minority population in the region at the time. Arabs were bigger, so Arabs got the majority of the land. What was left, the Jews anticipated as being the Jewish national home. Yeah,
Excellent.
But
So-
what? Let me just finish because you're talking about borders.
You are talking
You're
quite a lot.
Okay, fine.
No problem. Go finish your sentence. I haven't got a problem with you finishing. I think you're used to people just attacking you.
I am.
I'm
Actually,
not attacking you right now. I'm giving you a chance
That's good,
to
that's
say your
good.
version of
And
history.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And so my version of history is the largest amount of land possible was given to the Arabs.
Give him a chance to say
What
it.
was left of the land was supposed to be a Jewish homeland. The Arabs who were living there and in the Arab world in general rejected it. Civil war broke out. The British couldn't handle the problem. The British decided after giving away a load of land to the Arabs, they couldn't control Israel, the West Bank and Gaza, and they gave that to the United Nations. The United Nations then took a vote on what to do, and they voted to partition. Exactly, they voted to partition the land. Britain abstained from the vote. Britain was one of 2 Western nations that refused to vote in the partition vote. So Britain didn't create Israel. The United Nations voted to recognise it, and then Israel declared independence very quickly. 8 Arab armies invaded, and now we're getting to the border thing. You asked me about the borders. This is why it's coming round to. Israel was invaded by 8 Arab armies.
Where's 8?
8, so
Arab.
No,
I'm happy. I'm learning from you. Go ahead.
Okay. So you have Syria, of course.
Are we having a history lesson?
You're having my
Because I don't think the history is relevant in this case. What
But
was
you-
there.
Yeah, it is relevant.
He's asking.
now.
We're talking about.
Yeah, no, but we're coming to it. We're building a
The
case.
problem is that if one side dropped their weapons, there will be no war. And if the other side drops its weapons, every single Jewish person in Israel will die.
Okay, thank you for that. Go ahead.
And I'm saying this because 3 years ago I was relieved to my service as a soldier in the IDF.
Okay, nice one. So come here if you're a soldier in the IDF. Come and speak to us.
I'm not a soldier anymore.
Well, you were. Come here and let's talk about you being a soldier in the IDF. Come here. You got experience. So you got. We have the leader of the Israeli
Jewish
advocacy
people.
movement, and then you have a former IDF fighter. Yeah.
Of Israel.
Whatever. You are working with the IDF. Yeah. All right. No problem. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you very much. Okay. So for me, she was talking about the history not being relevant. This is why because I've let you speak for about 3 or 4 minutes. Right? All I was going to say to you is that why I personally believe that the history is incredibly relevant. Forget about Israel, like you said for a second. Forget about this whole Zionist thing. Forget about it. Yeah. Let's pretend we're in Speaker's Corner in 2100. Yeah. Well, 2100, or let's say 2080. And let's do a little counterfactual history right now. Yeah. Let's do a little counterfactual history right now. Yeah. Let us pretend that the Islamic State, or they call themselves the Islamic State, Daesh, or ISIS, or ISIL, or whatever they are, they were able to establish themselves a state. Let's just pretend for the sake of argument. And now they've got their own infrastructures, they've got their own parliament, they've got this and that and whatever. Someone he's now born into the Islamic State, and now this is fast forward to 2100, comes over here in Speaker's Corner, and he's making the case for the legitimacy of the Islamic State. He starts saying, look, the Islamic State, expelled the Yazidis and these things, and he starts making excuses and these things. He says, however, what is history doesn't matter anymore, because history of the past doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter.
That's what you did say.
No,
so
I
history
said
doesn't
that
matter
this
anymore.
argument is irrelevant anymore because
Fine.
both have
I'm just saying,
history
which
in
means
the
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We
it doesn't
want
matter.
soldiers
So-
now.
so-
We're
Whichever
soldiers
way
now.
you say it.
Rotem.
Rotem, if your great-grandchild spoke to that person's great-grandchild who's saying that the Islamic State is a legitimate
I'm
state,
saying I'm tired of burying my family, and the other side is tired of burying their
Okay,
family
no
as well.
problem, no
And in
problem.
2008, we offered 94% of the West Bank.
Rotem,
and they said no.
I haven't got a problem with what you're saying. I'm just saying something
You
else.
wanna make
But listen, Rotem, we might be you, right? But I'm just speaking here generally about a specific counterfactual history. I want your opinion on it, right? Your great-grandchild or your grandchild or your daughter, she's having a conversation with someone else who's now part of this Islamic State where they were born in it, yeah? Or
You
the
know what?
Daesh.
If it was 200 years ago, I would say you stay. That's why exactly I don't come to Poland or to Germany and ask the Germans to give back my grandfather's
Okay,
house.
excellent. So the Islamic
But
State.
that's not the case
so,
in Israel.
so
My
the-
family has been in Israel since the Second Temple.
No, that's fine. Now I've understood your point, right? Your point is, so long as you win a country in war,
No, she's not saying that.
Fine.
She said her family has been there for 2,000
that's
years.
fine.
at least.
That's a fair enough point. If you believe in that, then you.
That's not
then
believe,
it's
that's
not a
prove
problem.
it.
No problem. I accept.
In
If you
Deen.
if you believe in that, that's not a problem. What you say then is you don't say I believe in a democratic or a liberal logic. You don't say
She's not
that.
saying that at all.
So-
You're talking about
I'm
the rights
saying
of
I want two
indigenous
states.
people. You're saying the Palestinians are an indigenous people. Yeah, that's what most Muslims will say. Yeah, she's saying that Jews,
So go
Jews
ahead.
are also indigenous to that land. I've got a friend, a very close friend of mine.
What we're going back to?
No, I've got a friend of mine from Gaza. They lived there continuously until 48 when the Egyptians kicked them out.
Egyptians.
The Egyptians kicked them out in 1948. Yeah, when the Egyptians conquered
I
Gaza.
thought you were talking all the way back to the
Oh, no,
ancient
no, not
Egyptians.
fair,
because I know
not fair.
you guys do that. that.
That was different religion.
Go ahead, go
different
ahead.
people.
Different rulers, but no, the Egyptians kicked them out, yeah, and they had to go and do it wider Israel. All we're saying is, she said she supports a two-state solution, so she supports the potential for a Palestinian state, yeah? Why
Is that what you
can't...
support as well?
So I'll be absolutely honest, I used to be 100% for a two-state solution.
What do you support now?
Now I have, whether it's a one-state, two-state, 29-state, I just want peace. And whatever's going to bring
Okay.
peace about, that's what I support.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, I
Okay,
come from
good.
a family
Okay, that's an
that
easy thing to
died.
say. I hope.
No,
I
it's
hope
not.
peace can
I
be-
come
And I'll
from a
give-
family that buried their son. I need to, every year I visit my
What, a Muslim
my
family.
a Jewish family, and I have Muslim friends that bury their family as well. I go to my dad's grave, my uncle's grave, my friends' graves every single year, and I am tired of it.
Okay, fine.
We are sick and tired of it.
But
We tried
with
making.
respect, Rocha, with respect. Like if we could, sorry.
And I agree with you. There are families that lost their dear ones on the other side as well, and
No,
we
it's
need
not.
it to
You've made,
stop.
sorry, Rocha,
Yes.
with the greatest of respect, you've made the Palestinian casualty respecting to the Israeli casualty the exception and not the rule. The rule is the Palestinian casualty, and the exception is
good to
the
see.
Israeli casualty. If you look at the amount of casualties in the two intifadas, there were of an excess of 10,000 people in two of
You
those
want to talk
intifadas.
about the casualties that the German experienced in the Second World War?
That's nothing to do with the Muslims.
No, but if one side attacks the other, then if the other side is stronger, other casualties on the
So
other
what's
side will
World War
probably
II and Hitler got to do with the Palestinian experience?
Okay, let's just say Hitler was bad, right? He attacked Israel, right? He attacked England, right?
Okay, yes.
Right? Correct?
Yeah, all right.
Sorry, my English is not as good.
No, it's good. Go ahead.
England fought back, right?
Okay.
Correct. So
Yeah, all right.
killed a lot of Germans, right?
Killed a lot of?
Germans, England, right?
okay, yeah.
Germans also killed a lot of English,
Yes.
but England killed more Germans than English, right?
England killed?
More Germans than the
I haven't looked at the
Germans
stats. I haven't looked at the stats.
killed. More or less.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, go on.
Some innocent died, right?
Some innocent.
On both sides, right? But still, the Brits killed more Germans because the Germans attacked, right?
Okay, go ahead.
Now I feel sorry for every single person that was born in Gaza, lived horrible lives, with horrible government, corrupt government.
What government
And
are
I
we
do.
talking about?
But
The Israeli
said,
one?
no.
Hamas. 12 years
Hamas.
there haven't been an election there.
So do you actually
Let me
believe
just
that the
finish.
Israeli
Let
government...
me just finish.
Good, sorry.
Okay? I was in Beersheba when we signed a ceasefire, and then 10 minutes later, there were 14 rockets fired at me.
Okay.
If one side
Those
dropped
little rockets
its
are
weapon,
fireworks.
if Israel
There's little
dropped
fireworks
its
that kill
weapon,
people.
How many people have they killed
It
compared
was
to the
not
Israeli?
fireworks, honey. I was there. I saw the fireworks next to me.
They're small rockets. They are small
Listen,
rockets.
There's
They're
more
handmade
rockets
rockets.
that kill people.
This is the disgrace of the conversation because you belittle Jewish suffering, Israeli suffering, Israeli Arab and
It's
Jewish
not
and
even
Jewish.
the suffering part. It's if Israel
just said
dropped
that
its
the
weapon,
rockets
we
are
will
not
all die.
comparable.
And if
When you-
Gaza stopped fighting
when you've
and
got-
wanted to
when
talk,
you've got-
the war will be over.
What we're talking about is a disparity in the military capabilities of two places.
We're not, because you make the mistake. You think it's just Israel and Palestinians. It's Israel, Iran, Syria. You've got major.
Do you reckon
That's
Syria
not-
and
It's
Iran
not
are
even
involved?
that.
It's an Israeli-Arab conflict.
Do you
We've been
reckon-
outgunned and outnumbered.
Depends on
Not
what you're
even- not
talking
even
about. You're talking about the
military.
recent period.
We're talking about the fact that
You're talking about her life.
Who gives Hamas the weapons they're using?
What do you
She was there like
Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired at her? Who gave Hamas the weapons that they fired at
Let's
her?
leave other countries
So,
aside.
Yeah,
first,
Iran,
you're
it's
talking about
Iran.
Syria
Let's
and
leave that
Iran,
aside
but
for
not
a
anymore.
moment. What's your name?
Not
again?
anymore.
What's your name?
Mohammed.
Nice to meet you.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Let's not
Go
talk
on.
about other countries. Okay? Let's talk about Israel. War reparations. Okay? Not Iran, no
We
Iraq.
will not embarrass
Iran
someone.
and Syria are not funding Hamas.
You do not
Do you know who was funding Hamas in 1980?
So this is an age
No.
of...
Do you know who was funding Hamas
You're
in
going to say
1980?
the Israeli government?
Yeah, the Israeli government.
Yeah,
Can you show us the
evidence?
evidence?
Well, she accepts the evidence. Do you know the reason why they were funding them?
No, you tell us.
Because they saw the PLO as the biggest threat. You see,
Why is that funny?
I find
no.
look,
Why is that funny?
Let me find that interesting. Let me tell you why I find that really interesting. I find this stuff incredibly interesting because, you know, depending upon the particular time period, the narrative changes. In the 1980s, you were more concerned with Arab nationalism than you were with Islamism. So now, it has to be the bad Arab, and today it has to be the bad Muslim. So the idea is this: that the
So
Israeli,
Hamas aren't bad?
the Israeli government. No, I'm not saying that they're not bad. No, we do condemn the actions that they do, of course. Yeah? Like blowing themselves up and these things. I don't accept that stuff. But what I'm saying to you is,
They're making people work.
what I'm saying to you, generally speaking, is that the Israeli government has not been consistent in its policies, morally consistent. It's only been strategically consistent in the sense that it only funds those parties which it sees is beneficial to its own cause. The 1980s, whatever.
This conversation just jumps from thing to thing. Can we just get one symbol? Can we set some premise? She said she recognises a future Palestinian state. I will say, if it means peace for the Jewish people and the Arab people in that region, I support a two-state solution. So I support a future Palestinian state. Can you just at least say whether you support an Israeli state or not, just so we know who we're talking to? Everyone who
Joseph, you've had the time to speak. So you said you could show me videos. I've just showed you a video of two Israelis.
And what's happening now in that case?
IDF shooting a target which is unarmed.
And what's happening?
And then in that
You say unarmed, I say I don't know. What's happening in that instance? No, but what's happening in that instance?
He's getting shot.
No, afterwards. What's happening now? No, now, today. What's happening now with Israel about that incident? There's an investigation. There's a military investigation.
So nothing is going to happen
from the
Nothing's
idea.
going to happen.
Okay, no problem. So what I was going to say to you is, the narrative I would like you to pay attention to is the narrative that says that upon Israel's inception in 1948, up until this period of time now, just a simple looking at the map of the Palestinian territories, we'll see a constant shrinking of the Palestinian territories.
Beautiful.
Hold on, do you mind if I just allow you to know? And that has been, for the most part, gained either through war and or through the settlements that are being put now in the form of Israeli settlements in the West Bank and other places. My point to you is this. My point to you is, isn't it patently clear to you, isn't it very, very obvious for you to see that from the beginning when you had things like Plan Dalit, where you had government documents, and they still exist to this day, that show that the intention of the Israeli government was to wipe away as many of the Palestinians as possible up until this point, so as to every once in a while, every 2 years, 3 years, bombard the most densely populated area in the world of civilian populations, which is Gaza, bombard it, knowing full well that this will kill civilians. Isn't that clear to you? And then causing that place to be seized, such that you can't even bring things into it, and it takes certain things out of it, and a medical situation there has become dire, and the food situation has become incredibly. It's at the height of. It's now on the verge of being a humanitarian catastrophe. Don't you say that all of that, when you look at it completely, indicates to you that there is a problem in the policies of the IDF and the Israeli government?
Okay, so can I respond and fact check each one? So several other points you made. First point was you claim that Israel's borders have been expanding.
Not expanding. I didn't say
you
this.
said Palestinian land has been shrinking.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Israel has actually given away 70% of the territory it once held.
So
Did you
that's
know
not
that?
what- that's not what the map shows.
No, it's exactly what the map
What are you
shows.
talking about?
Okay, so you don't know.
What are you-
Sinai. So
Sinai was never Israel's in the first place.
Oh my gosh! Okay, so let's go through law. Let's go through the history of the conflict. Let's go through the history of
We
the
don't need to go through the whole history. You said Sinai. Sinai's part of
This
Egypt.
is why I don't like arguing. People dictate the term. I respond to what you say, and then you say, I don't want to talk about
You
that.
don't mind, Joseph. Come on, you don't have to get overexcited here, because here we're having a diplomatic discussion.
Okay, so let me
This is
respond.
not,
I know you're trying to patronise me and calm me down. That's how it feels.
You are getting angry.
I'm getting animated, yes, I'm not getting angry.
Okay, but you don't have to say, oh my god. I'll let you talk.
So, oh my gosh, yeah.
Just tell me at any point, at any point, if you want to talk.
I'm sorry if my volume is offending you.
Joseph, listen to me.
But can I just respond to my point?
No problem.
I'll
I
quiet
was just
down.
gonna say, at any point,
Because
if you want to talk, I'll let you talk. But I just can't finish one point, right? Now we know the two conflicts in Egypt, the 1967 conflict and the 1973 conflict, which amounted to obviously Israel taking part of Sinai away and then giving it back in 1973. I wouldn't consider, you're saying that Israel, see here, it's the fallacy of equivocation. You said here, Israel has given back 70% of land. What he means to say is that Israel has given back 70% of land that it never owned in the first place.
How do you think states are born, Muhammad? How did the Islamic Caliphate come to stretch?
talking about Islam
Listen,
caliphate?
because it's a very important point. How did, say, the Mamluks or any of the different caliphates, how did they come?
Mamluks, by the way.
I didn't know that.
There was ones in Egypt and ones in
So how did they
India.
come? How did they come to expand and have so much territory? Because they acquired it in conflict. In most cases, states are born out of conflict, yeah, and borders are defined by war. And the victor sets the border.
Well, it depends
Israel.
on-
Let me finish, because I let you finish.
Yeah.
Israel was victorious in wars that it did not start, and Israel acquired land and exchanged it for peace. It gave back the Sinai Peninsula. It gave back Gaza. It gave back parts of Lebanon. It gave back the parts of the West Bank. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, and all
Say
in
that
return
again,
for
say
peace.
that last bit again, say
Parts
that.
of the West Bank.
So go through the list again. He gave back Sinai.
Sinai.
Yeah, which never was part of Israel in the first place.
How are states born? How did Britain come to have its born? How come Scotland is part of the UK?
Wait, hold on.
No, it's a straight question.
Okay, so there was the Act of the Union in 1509 or whatever it was.
So the British and the Scots were fighting for a long time, yeah?
There was the Act of the Union.
No, but were the British and Scots fighting for a long time?
Whatever it was.
No, states are born out of conflict. Most of the
It wasn't a war that made Scotland part of the UK, by the way.
the British and the Scots were fighting. The
Hold on.
Jacobean
Let me
Wars.
hold on. There was no war that led to Scotland being part of the UK.
How come the British claimed to be in there?
But there was an Act of the Union.
Fine, I hear what you're saying, but was Britain and Scotland fighting for centuries?
Okay, see, look, your point here is it's a bad example. Okay, I understand. You're talking about there was a time, okay, where, for example, certain countries were born out of war. Okay, I'm not saying that's going to happen. And by the way,
That always happens.
yeah,
That
no,
is the
that's
history of
history.
statehood.
Okay, no problem. But what I'm saying to you is that what premise are you going with? If you're, do you believe you're a liberal Democrat?
No.
Hold on, please. Joseph. I'm asking you a simple question, please. Do you believe in liberalism and democracy?
So do I would consider myself to be more of a libertarian, but yeah, I consider I have some liberal values.
So you believe in
And democracy,
and
certainly.
democracy, so fine. I believe if you are true to a liberal framework or philosophical perspective, you cannot say on the one hand that okay, I believe in liberalism, and on the other hand say, well, states are born out of war, because then the counter argument will be, yeah, that's a reality, but it's not a morally acceptable reality from your perspective.
So stop defining what I believe, for one. Jewish exceptionalism is what you're talking about. No, you're saying that all the other states are born out of warfare, but it's immoral for Jews to use that same barometer, use that same measure for themselves. No, you're saying that if I did...
No, here's the difference, right? When we had the League of Nations collapse and then the UN start, yeah? Then you have the international laws. So you've got 2 or 3 different departments here. You've got 2 or 3 different dimensions. You have your own philosophical framework, which is liberalism, and democracy is from your perspective. And then you also have international laws. International laws which stipulate...
I don't accept the United Nations. Okay. So it's a different conversation. The United Nations just nominated Syria to be in charge of chemical warfare, whatever it is.
We all have our...
Saudis in charge of the Human Rights Council.
Me personally, I have my own reservations with the United Nations, no problem. But what I'm saying is that you can't say you don't accept the United Nations on the one hand, and the country which you're an advocate for, which is Israel, is not only part of the United Nations, but is a shaping country in the United Nations.
Country. It's the one nation that is continuously...
It's the one nation
condemned
in the last
hauled over
100
hot
years
coal.
which has had its country, maybe not the one nation, but it's one of few nations in the last 100 years which has had the benefit of being defined as a country because of the United Nations. It's interesting that he's
I
saying...
disagree that
Joseph,
that's
you
not
said it yourself.
No, that's not what I said. I said the United Nations voted to recognise...
There was a resolution in 1947.
The United Nations does not have the legal power to create nations.
I understand, but in 1947 there was a resolution. From that resolution was begotten Israel in 1948.
So
Had the resolution not taken place, then Israel would not be here.
What do you believe that vote was? Just so we can understand if we're talking on the same term.
So from my understanding of history, throughout the 1940s and 50s, sorry, 1940s, the early 1940s, mid 1940s, there was this constant, pressurization that the Zionist lobby was putting on Britain, to the extent whereby in 1943, I think it was who was the guy in charge in 1948?
Churchill, Roosevelt.
No, it wasn't. It was what's his name?
What we're talking about,
The guy from Labour.
Attlee.
Attlee. Yeah, Clement Attlee. He promised at one point the what do you call it? The Israeli state. Yeah. And then he took a step back from that. At which the Israelis or the Jews got very, very angry, and then he referred it to a mandate to Palestine. So Britain referred the case to a mandate to the United Nations. I apologize. Yeah. So they referred the case to the United Nations. After when Britain referred the case to the United Nations, in 1947, that's when the resolution took place, and in May 1948 is when Israel was born. So here, what we're saying is, you're saying I don't accept the United Nations. The irony of that is, you're saying you don't accept an organization that actually had it not been in existence, had it not put in the resolution, Israel would not exist in the first place.
So do you believe the resolution brought Israel into existence?
I believe that without the resolution, Israel would not have come into existence in May 1948.
Okay, so I think we're saying the same thing. I believe,
Do you accept this?
so I'm just going to say what I believe. I'm trying to answer. My understanding is Israel came into existence when they declared independence. The United Nations has no power to create a nation. That's not its function.
I'm not saying it is.
Yeah, what they have the
colonial
ability to do is to define global consensus. And at that point, there was global consensus to recognise Israel, and Israel declaring independence is actually
What about the
Israel-
global consensus that we should have a Palestinian territories?
So, again, you're looking like you got me.
No, I'm just wondering because now
I've never said. When have I ever said there shouldn't be a Palestinian state?
Pardon?
When have I ever said there shouldn't be a Palestinian state?
Okay, so you do believe in Palestinian
So I
state.
just said my outlook for the solution. My solution is that I don't know whether it's one state, two state. If the Palestinian state,
You're fumbling all over the place.
Let me listen.
You don't know what you believe.
If a Palestinian, no, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe the two-state solution from the bottom of my heart with incredible passion until I actually started visiting the West Bank and realizing the reality of what that meant.
What is the reality?
Article 6 of the Palestinian National Charter says that any Jew that wasn't living there before the Zionist conquest, which most legal experts interpret to mean 1917, will be driven from the land, will be thrown out of the land, yeah? So you've got 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank, not ignoring Jerusalem, which you consider to be an international city. 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank.
What does the UN say about it?
What does
the UN say about
just finish my point. 500,000 Jews living in the West Bank will be ethnically cleansed. If a two-state solution means making 500,000
I don't
Jewish,
know how you can say ethnically cleansed.
because they're cleansed because
whom?
they're Jewish.
By whom?
By the Palestinian National
Come on,
Army.
come on.
But they were living in peace
Listen. Can I make a point without you like patronising and talking down to me?
under the Palestinians.
Let him say what he wants to say. Go ahead.
There are 500,000 Jews living there. The Palestinian National Authority, in Article 6 of their national charter, state that any Jew that wasn't living there before 1917 will be thrown out. They're thrown out.
Palestinian National Charter.
The Palestinian National Authority's charter, Article 6. Google it. Anyone
Wait,
can look
hold
it
on.
up.
What are you talking about?
So the Palestinian National Authority, the PLO, had a charter which they reconfirmed in 1967.
Hold on. Are you talking? Because here, look. This is the kind of equivocation that causes me to be confused.
Okay.
Because your initial criticism was not to the PLO. You had a long discussion about Hamas.
I'm not singing the praise of the PLO. I think the PLO are a treacherous organisation.
Okay, fine. So what's the issue here?
The issue is that the PLO, or the National it's now Fatah, have explicitly stated that they will, what I consider to be ethnically cleanse,
You're
500,000
talking
Jews.
about ethnic cleansing.
Yeah.
No, but that's
What do you call removing
But
someone
hold
from
on.
a land based on their
But-
religion?
But hold on, because here, this is something which actually academically has been written about, and this is something a term that has been used in conjunction with the Israeli operations. So hold on, because I find it really interesting, right? That you're using the term ethnic cleansing.
That's what would happen.
In conjunction. Hold on, it's not what you can't predict the future like that.
No, that's what the charter. You can only go by what
Right.
Article 6 of the charter
But hold
says,
on.
and anyone
you
can
can't
Google
only go by this.
1967.
No, but hold on. You and I both know international politics doesn't work in that way, all right? You don't understand the basics of geopolitics. That if you had, for example, a Palestinian state with Jewish people in it, the moment such ethnic cleansing could even be conceivable is the moment all of the foreign powers will be involved.
That's what already happened when Jordan conquered the West Bank. They ethnically cleansed the Jews.
This is not correct.
That's absolutely correct. Jordan enacted a law which forbade Jews from being citizens of Jordan, which is why you have no Jews living in Jordan today, and you have no Jews living in Palestinian Authority-controlled areas of the West Bank, Area A.
What is ethnic cleansing?
Okay, if you've got an ethnic minority, or they can even be a majority, you have an ethnic group which is driven from a land because of their ethnicity.
That's not cleansing.
That is, you're confusing genocide if you're going to say killing. Genocide is the slaughter. Ethnic cleansing is driving someone from the land.
Not necessarily. You can combine the two themes.
Okay, fine, but I'm talking about ethnic cleansing. The definition of ethnic cleansing is driving people from a land based on their ethnicity.
You've just made a claim that Jordan ethnically cleansed
the Jews. The Jews. When Jordan conquered the West Bank, they enacted a law which said that Jewish people are forbidden from residing or having citizenship in Jordan.
No problem.
Which they then
so that's what you consider ethnic
Can I just
cleansing?
finish my point? Can I just finish my point?
Yeah.
Jordan conquered the West Bank. Britain recognised it. It said the West Bank is now part of Jordan, and they banned Jews from living there. The Palestinian National Authority, the PLO, continued this prohibition, which is why to this day there is not one Jew.
So if you consider that ethnic cleansing, so now you're saying a restriction on the Jewish mobility in and around the West Bank area is tantamount to ethnic cleansing?
No, I'm saying the reality today.
Is that right?
Irrespective of whether you think the Israeli Jews should be in the West Bank or not, the reality is today they're there. And if you believe, can I just finish?
Yeah,
if you believe that the moral solution to the problem in the Israel, West Bank, Palestine, call them what you will, if you believe the solution is to create 500,000 Jewish refugees, that's ethnic cleansing, and it's not moral. It's not a moral argument.
Well, now you're creating a straw man.
It's not a straw man. That's what would happen.
Because if you believe that's a conditional that has no relevance to my position.
So it's the Palestinian National Authority's Charter, the PLO's Charter, which was reconfirmed in 1967, explicitly states this is what they're doing. This is not a straw man.
You're going back a good 40 years ago to make a point about what a charter says.
How many Arabs live in Israel?
How many Arabs
live in Israel?
You tell me, man. You're the Israeli.
Yeah, there's over a million, between 1 million and 1.6 million. Somewhere within that range. 20% of the population are there. How many Jews live in Areas A of the Palestinian-controlled territory in Gaza and the West Bank?
Is that how you create?
No.
Why do they need to live there when they've created settlements there, my friend? They've taken the land over. What are you talking about?
They refuse. They're not allowed to live in the land. The Palestine is a continuation of Jordanian law. The Jews aren't allowed to live there.
I want to ask you a simple question. The settlements that are being built now in the West Bank, what is your stance on them?
So that's how we start the conversation. Perfect. And I asked you to define what are the borders. If you can tell me what the borders are, I'll tell you what my position on the settlements are. I tell you. Okay, so for me, there are no borders. That's the problem.
Okay. Now we understand your position. There are no borders.
Yeah. So what are the borders?
So is Gaza not part of it?
No. So why are there no borders? Why don't you be clever? Why don't you ask me why there are no borders? Spooky.
No, go ahead. What do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that is the 1949 armistice line. Do you know the difference between the pre-67 border, the Green Line, and the 49 armistice
the Golden Heights and these things in addition?
They're basically the same thing. And so the 1949 armistice lines are the agreement with Jordan.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the agreement with Jordan was a temporary ceasefire, yeah? Both Jordan and Israel categorically stated at the time of making the truce, this is a temporary ceasefire, yeah? East Jerusalem, West Jerusalem never existed. There was no such division as East Jerusalem or West Jerusalem, yeah? We can agree that.
No, we can't agree that. Listen.
No, we can't.
Hold on. I'm not talking about Jerusalem now, because you've gone into a minutiae. We're talking about the generic.
East Jerusalem, the whole term, East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem.
What do you mean there's no borders?
Sorry, I didn't mean to spit. The whole agreement between Jordan created East Jerusalem. It created West Jerusalem. It created the West Bank. What's the West Bank of? It's the West Bank of Jordan. The East Bank is Jordan.
My question to you is, you've just made a statement that there are no borders. My question to you is, what did you mean by that statement?
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Go ahead.
Israel and the Palestinians have never agreed to borders.
So what does that entail? What does that mean?
So it means that they have to sit down and negotiate what the borders are. And
okay, hold on. Now we know, okay, as Thomas Hobbes says, covenants are but words if they're not backed by swords. That's what he said, yeah? We know that in a situation, from an international relations perspective, where you have a stronger power versus a weaker power, in this case, no doubt, Israel represents the stronger power.
Israel is the weaker power. It's surrounded by Arab states that want to destroy it.
No, they're not. No, they are not, bro.
Really? So
yes,
Israel?
Yes. No,
okay, we'll just do a quick little Muslim count. How many people here would like to see Israel gone tomorrow?
Hold on. Joseph, please. you're not an ignorant person, okay?
Thank you.
Egypt do not want the Egyptian government.
Thank you for the clarification. What about the Egyptian people?
Forget about the Egyptian people. They're not in control of anything.
No,
The military. Listen carefully. The Egyptian people are not in control of the military complex, nor are they in control of the government. The Egyptian government cannot be said to have a stated objective at this present time of wanting to destroy Israel.
And why is that?
Because they're in alliance with the Americans, who are in alliance with Israel.
No, but what it was actually before the alliance between the American, who negotiated peace? Who negotiated
1973.
peace? No, but who I think was like
Sadat.
Yeah, exactly Sadat.
Okay. So here, anyways,
And
anyways.
Begin,
Yeah,
and they
Begin,
negotiated
yeah.
peace,
Begin.
and they gave away land. They gave away land.
It's not their land. Sinai was never
Okay,
part of it.
we're going round in circles.
No, but
now.
you say give away land.
If you attack me, yeah?
Yes.
You attack a nation,
Yeah.
and you lose that
No,
war,
I want
and
you to
lose the
no,
land.
hold on. I like what you just said there. If I attack you and take your hat, which is a nice hat, yeah? If I attack you and take your hat, and then put it on my head, yeah? And then afterwards I give it back to you. I say I'll give it back land. I'll give it back to you. Your
If
hat.
you launch an attack
Your
on
hat.
me, if you launch an attack on me and take my hat and lose your hat in the
Listen,
your
no
hat-
problem.
I mean, it's not going to happen. You're a big guy. It's like, I can't even reach your hat.
No problem.
but,
No problem.
Go for it. Go on.
Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Although the option is always available for MMA.
One thing I'm going to say, just understand that.
Listen.
Why do you guys always call out Tommy Robinson for violence? You stoop to his level. You're like, I'll
Maybe
fight you
you're right.
MMA. It's wrong. You like,
No.
be a bigger man. I mean,
We're just using
excuse
it.
the pun.
We're just using it to get views and subscribers, which we've achieved. Anyways, I was going to take a step back now and say to you, listen. It depends on the premise. I haven't got a problem with what you're saying. In fact, let me be completely honest with you. If you say to me, I believe in not just war theory. I believe that whatever. Like you take the land, you win in war. So fine. If that is your premise, that you take the land that you win.
I'm saying that's what's happening in history.
No problem.
Yeah.
That's a morally acceptable premise. If that's your morality, then you have not contradicted yourself. Do you understand? Because you're saying that if the situation is that you take the land which you win in war, then ISIS is justified. No problem. You and ISIS, and let's say the Native Americans have been expelled from their land and genocide has
How was
happened.
the Rashidun Caliphate? Did I pronounce it right?
Yes,
How
yes.
was that born?
The Khulafa Rashidun.
Yeah.
Expansionism.
And how did they acquire that territory?
No,
With swords.
What I'm saying to you, listen to me carefully. Yeah? I'm saying to you, now this is another equivocation. Why? I am saying if you believe, right, in a war, in the land that you get from war, if you believe in that theory, yeah, no problem. Yeah, you can say that. Because, however, I would put to you, even then, that the way Israel was born was not through war. It hid behind the colonial master of the United Kingdom, who then assigned that land to them.
Well,
So it wasn't your war that you won.
The last time we spoke, what did we speak about?
What?
We spoke about the King David bombing, yeah?
Yes.
Does that sound like Britain was the colonial power supporting the Israelis? Britain refused to vote in the vote. Refused to vote in the UN.
Sorry, tell me what you mean by this.
So there was an underground force in Israel that was basically the Urgun that were fighting the British, for Jewish independence, And so at that time, Britain wasn't supporting Israel. When it came to the vote at the United Nations, Britain wasn't supporting Israel. When do you think Britain was supporting?
It oscillated.
When,
In my opinion, it oscillated.
so when were they supporting?
So, for example, there were times like we said, I think it was Clement.
I don't know what you're going to say.
But no. It was Neville Chamberlain.
Neville Chamberlain?
Yes.
That was before the war, mate.
Yeah, it was before the war. Neville Chamberlain, he wrote in a white paper in 1935. Okay, 1935. Check if I'm right. So right, Neville Chamberlain. See when he was in power. Neville
Stanley Baldwin, actually.
Neville Chamberlain, 1935, produced a white paper. The white paper said in it that the Jewish people were going to have their own land. Yeah, is that right?
37 to 40.
Okay, so it might have been when was the white paper?
Which paper? The Peel? There was lots of white
When was the white paper? No, the one.
1936 white paper.
Yeah, it was the 1936.
Which limited Jewish immigration to the mandatory Palestine. That was the white paper.
So that is when it oscillated from. That's when it oscillated from the the whole Balfour thing to the white paper.
So you're saying the white paper was okay? I can
get
agree
it.
with that.
So what I'm saying is that the British policy, it oscillated between promising Israeli, or not at that time, but Israeli, the Jewish people land, and promising sovereignty and limitations of immigration to the Palestinian people because they saw that they were the majority, like in the white paper. Yeah, was it?
Churchill was the one that wrote the white paper. It was Churchill. Yeah.
No, but then the white paper was repealed. And then afterwards, after all these terrorist attacks took place, the Urgun and these things, that's when you had, when did the King David attack happen? 1946. 1946. So the King David attack is not a coincidence that the King David hotel attack happened in 1946, where this underground, you would call them terrorist organization, yeah?
No, I wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah.
So Urgun, a group of people that went into a hotel and killed 92 civilian individuals.
No, not
There were,
civilian.
there were 92.
No, it was a military base. It was,
But
the
it was
headquarters-
English people.
It was the headquarters of the British military power.
So you're saying that's okay?
No, I'm not saying it's okay. You asked me if they're terrorists.
No, okay, exactly. No, hold on. This is very important now because here we're getting to somewhere. Yeah.
So okay,
Begin.
Begin, yeah.
Begin.
Three killed three
Menachem
sergeants, I think.
Exactly. Listen, Begin. Begin. How you ever say his name? Yeah. He was the leader of Urgun, no? He was part of Urgun. Yes, he was. No. Begin. He orchestrated a terrorist attack. In my opinion, we call it attack. Forget about the word terrorist. We're not going to use that word. In 1946, right before the mandate was referred to the UN, yeah, for the British mandate. Sorry, the resolution.
Partition vote, yeah.
Okay. He went into King David Hotel. They went into the basement of the hotel. Forget about it. They called them. They didn't call them.
They did call them.
So no problem. They called them. They didn't call them. The Jewish library says they called them. Yeah, I read it. I read the Jewish library, the Jewish virtual library. I saw their account. Begin says they called them. Whatever, no problem. They called them. They didn't call them. In whatever case, they went into the hotel and 92 people died because of the barrel bombs that they put in place and the shootings that happened. Okay, so who were killed? Some 27 Palestinians were killed, and the rest were British people. Yeah, working in that hotel.
Jews were killed as well.
Okay, some Jewish people were killed as well. So I don't understand because this is the thing. That's why I've come to you. I feel like sometimes you do have a bias. I come to you and say to you, do you consider that this was a terrorist attack? You're saying that they're not terrorists. Why are they not terrorists? Because you know what the interesting thing is, sorry, just to add to it, that this same Begin, in 1946, who orchestrated this terrorist attack and who allowed 92 people to be killed, it was the same Begin that became the Prime Minister. Became the President or Prime Minister? Prime Minister of Israel in 1948.
No, 1980. Begin.
Oh, sorry, Begin was 1980. Yeah.
But just on Vegas.
So Begin, became Prime Minister. Okay. Now it's as if you have Osama bin Laden and the 9/11 attacks exactly like this.
It's a disgusting comparison.
No, it's exactly the same comparison.
It's a disgusting comparison,
Why?
and I'll tell you why.
Why?
In 1946,
Osama bin Laden becomes the puppet king of one of the
Are you
Arab
interested in
nations.
the answer? In 1946,
Yes.
what had just finished in Europe?
We're talking about World War II.
I'm talking about the Holocaust. 6 million Jews.
World War II and Holocaust.
Yeah, but I'm talking explicitly about the Holocaust.
Well, Holocaust happened within World War II. Yeah.
6 million Jews had just been slaughtered during that period.
So you can kill other innocents.
Listen, please listen. The British
And Urgun, by the way,
Can I just make my point? I let you speak and I didn't interrupt you.
Yes.
6 million Jews were slaughtered. During that period, the British closed the doors of mandatory Palestine to Jewish immigration. They limited it to 10,000 Jews coming in and increased immigration of Arabs. The Israelis. So Arabs migrated en masse from Lebanon, Syria, the surrounding states into mandatory Palestine, attracted by the affluence that the British and the
I don't know about
Okay, it's fine. It's a fact. You can Google it.
No.
Okay, it's fine. This is my perspective. This is the Jewish narrative. In response to locking the door during the Holocaust, the Irgun started pushing hard back against the British, who were pushing hard against the Irgun. And the Irgun hit the headquarters of the British military, which was at that time in the King David Hotel. Yes. It was the military headquarters. Yeah, in Jerusalem. I've been there. It's a beautiful hotel now.
Yes. Now it is now renovated.
Yeah. And I'm getting soaked here. And in response, they hit the hotel. They warned them. They rang up in advance and say we're going to hit it.
So if ISIS wants
but no, you
the
compared
Intercontinental
you
Hotel,
compared that to
and say, look, we're going to do a bomb today.
You compared Osama bin Laden
Yes, I did,
flying
yes.
planes into a
Yes.
commercial industry,
Yes.
killing 2,000 civilians
Yes, yes.
as an equivalency to
Well, he
Jews,
wasn't there
Jews
himself.
responding to the
But yes.
Holocaust. Responding to the
actually
Holocaust.
3,000.
The Jews responded 3,000. Sorry, responding to the Holocaust.
7-7. You got 50 people there. By the way.
Responding to the Holocaust and trying to increase Jewish immigration into a land.
So you're saying just because they're responding to the
I'm
Holocaust,
saying
they
it's,
can do that.
No, I'm saying it's.
And by the way, for
two
your
military
information,
forces
for your
hitting each other.
for your
It's
information,
two military forces
no,
attacking each
no,
other.
it's not two military forces. It's a hotel, which means people.
It's
are
not a
living
hotel. There was no.
You just said it was a King David hotel.
It wasn't a hotel. The British took over it and made it a military base.
there. Were civilians killed?
No, only people that were working for the British government. So you would call them
Hold
civil
on.
servants?
No, yeah. So a civil servant can be killed.
No, not at all.
Sorry, man.
No,
This is
it's
ridiculous,
not-
man. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
You have to. You have
If
to.
you
look.
have two.
Come on, man. Sorry, I apologize.
It's
Joseph,
just-
I apologize.
Try
come on.
and be respectful.
No,
I'm not
I-
laughing in your face.
No,
I'm trying to be respectful.
No, it was funny. No, sorry, I apologize. Okay. I want to say.
No.
Go ahead.
If you have two military forces, the Irgun, the Israeli military force, and the British, who are fighting each other, and they're hitting, the British are killing Irgun fighters, and the Irgun are responding by killing British fighters.
But you accepted that was you justified the attack.
No, I gave the context of the attack and said it's
No, but
incomparable to 9/11, where
Why
the
is it
lit-
577 then?
I said it's completely incomparable.
So why? Because it was a hotel?
Because you've got two military forces fighting versus a military
no
terrorist
problem.
attacking
No,
civilians.
I've got a quick question for you then. I've got perfect. I've got him where I want him. This is where I wanted you. Okay. That guy that killed.
Well done.
Hold on, no problem. What's his name? The guy Woolwich. Lee Rigby. Okay, no, that's it. It's done. Choke on you. Lee Rigby. Okay. He was killed by I forget the guy's name. Yeah. That guy that. What's his name?
Marco de Bellagio.
I'm glad everyone else has difficulty
Okay.
pronouncing his name.
Okay, so Adebayojo, he killed Lee Rigby, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Lee Rigby was a member of the British military. Your premise was that, okay, it's justified that the Irgun attacked the King David Hotel because it was one military force against another. Irgun was not a recognized military force within the Jewish community. It was a splinter group that even the Haganah, they'd condemned. The Haganah was more mainstream.
No, so it was more social.
Yeah. No, by the way, and this is in the Jewish library.
Well done.
The Jewish virtual library. They will tell you
Okay,
that
so this is
even
on
they will
this
agree
is
with
on
me
a
on this.
website, yeah?
Yes, on the
The
website.
Jewish virtual library is a
it's-
website.
No, it's a website, but it's respected by a lot of people, you know.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, having said that, so the Haganah, so the Irgun
Do you not
committed. Hold on,
understand
I haven't finished my
this
statement. So here, what you've said is that you consider that not a terrorist attack. So do you consider Lee Rigby?
Okay, so let's.
Hold on.
Yes,
Do you-
I understand your question.
Is
You don't-
Lee Rigby being killed by that man, Adebayojo? Terrorism.
Yes.
So
you
what's
understand-
different between Lee Rigby being killed
Absolutely.
and this guy is being killed? 92
So
of them in the hotel.
What was Michael's? I'm not going to try to pronounce his surname.
Yes, Michael.
motivation.
Political in nature.
No, but what was his motivation?
He wanted to kill the guy because he said it afterwards. He had the blood in his hands and he had the knife. He said that because you guys are in my country, the same kind of logic you've just used actually.
So what was my logic?
You said because we've been killed in the Holocaust, 1946, yeah, then it justifies XYZ.
No. So
His motives were to revenge things that
Yeah,
happened to
revenge.
people.
His logic was to revenge
So
those
mine isn't about revenge.
Okay, so what was it about?
So, as I said before, Jews are being massively persecuted at this point. They've been persecuted in the Arab world. They've been persecuted
So
in the
does that
Holocaust. Listen. At that point, British locked the doors, and if they hadn't locked the doors, millions of Jews could have been saved. We can agree with that, yeah?
Yeah.
The Holocaust could have been
Are you
averted.
talking about like the Evian conference and these things?
So I'm saying if
there was
if Britain hadn't locked the doors
Their
of
own
mandatory
doors.
Palestine,
their own doors.
so Britain was awarded the mandate on the condition they created Jewish national home there. Yeah, we agreed that was about the declaration.
Okay.
That's why the League of
By the
Nations.
way, they weren't in a position to, in my opinion, they weren't in a position like the colonial masters at that time were them in France.
colonial master.
Yeah, they weren't. What, do you not believe that they were colonial masters?
It's just the language is so.
What, do you not believe that they were colonists or not?
So
Were they colonists or not? Did they not have an empire? Was it not a British empire at that time?
So what time are we talking?
You said 1917, yeah?
So I said in 1917
There was a
the Balfour
colonial
Declaration,
office
but that
in
wasn't
Britain.
when the mandate was granted. Wasn't in 1917 was the Balfour Declaration?
No, I know. The mandate was granted in 1924, yeah?
I thought it was earlier than that, but let's go
Whatever, it could be
24. I thought it
1924.
was
At any
21.
rate, Britain had a colonial office
It was
in
21,
Parliament.
it was definitely 21.
No, until the 40s or 50s.
When
yeah?
was Jordan created? Because it was the year after. When was the eminence of Jordan? Come on.
1990?
No, it was later.
Treaty of Versailles?
No, it was later than that. Anyway, dates.
Anyways,
Early
go ahead,
20th century.
Yeah. Anyways, at any rate, the point I'm asking you is very simple, straightforward question. Like, this is why I think sometimes you do have a bias. It's like,
I definitely have a
started-
bias.
Okay, no problem. We all have a bias, but it's an unfair bias. You have a double standard.
I
would
don't
say.
have a double standard.
I do believe you do, because this is the thing. The justification.
My bias is this. My people have been slaughtered
Okay.
in almost every land we live.
Okay.
My only bias is Jewish survival. That's my bias.
Okay,
Whatever
no.
ensures
At the
my
ex-
people
but
survive,
even the
that's
expense,
my
and this
bias.
is why I believe it, at the expense of other people.
No, not at the expense of anyone else. That's what you've just said.
No,
you
because-
put those words. That's not my. That's
Okay,
not what I
so no,
said.
I'm asking you.
You asked. I never said I supported King David for one. I
you
said
don't support it?
I don't. So again, I said it's not an act of terror.
You justify it.
I said it's not an act of
what-
terror.
is not an act of
Why is it not?
Sorry.
Why is it not an act?
Oh my God, we're just going round in circles.
No, it's not. It's just that you're cornered.
cornered.
It's just a difficult question for you to answer.
Is the Lee Rigby Act a terror act in your eyes?
Yes, Lee Rigby is an
So
act
Lee
of
Rigby's
terror.
terror act
Why?
because they killed they killed someone from the military.
Because-
but then when Jewish people kill British military soldiers, the same exact scenario is British military soldiers who are acting in their opinion in a colonial way.
So he would say they're terrorists,
So
but you're saying they're
no,
not.
that's the thing, Joseph.
So
Joseph,
you would
listen
take-
carefully.
you- he would-
Joseph, sorry. This is an important question.
Sorry, it's really hard to
Here-
all of you.
In 1946, there was a terrorist attack. King David, Eastern Jerusalem, whatever it may have been. Yeah, and 92 people.
It's West Jerusalem.
So West Jerusalem, no problem. And 92 people were killed. Yeah, of them many civilians, of them Palestinians, of them British people that had their headquarters in the hotel. Now, you said
Was Mandela a terrorist?
that's a discussion.
No, because it's the same
No,
argument.
don't waste my time
No,
with
no,
this,
no,
man.
no,
We're going to
because-
South African
because
politics.
the-
Stop trying
it's
to
a
run
sim-
away from this.
No, it's a simple question because it's relevant to the news today.
Hold on, I'm not going to
He's
talk
asking a
about.
simple
I'm asking you the
No,
same
and I've
question.
responded and replied to that question several
No,
times,
no,
and
no,
now
no,
I'm
no,
asking you a question.
No, no, no,
This
no,
is
no,
always
no, no,
the
no,
case. This
no,
is
no,
always
Joseph,
the
Joseph.
case.
You stated that the King David hotel attack is not a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
He stated
It
that
is.
Do you believe the Lee Rigby
And I
Act
said
is
yes.
a terrorist? No, you said no.
No, I said Lee Rigby was the terror attack.
Okay, and the King David isn't.
Wasn't. Yeah.
So why is it? What's the difference?
This is
And
what
I
he's
just
asking.
explained. And I just
What's the difference?
explained.
What's the difference?
Motivation.
No, the motivation is the same.
No, it's not the same.
They want to establish
6 million
Islamic
Muslims
State.
Wait, hold
hadn't
on.
just been killed in the Holocaust, and Britain
Wait, hold
hadn't
on,
locked
hold
the doors to those Muslims
So-
to prevent them from getting in.
So okay, so hold on. You're saying the justification is the death of other Jews elsewhere.
No. I'm saying it's very, very black and white. Just like those in
But
apartheid
Joseph, do you see
Africa.
how that doesn't make any sense? Because that's exactly
Okay, so
that. Hold on.
Why
That
was
is
Mandela not a terrorist?
Hold on, forget that's a different
No,
question. man.
it's you
You're
asking
the
me
one who's
questions.
open-
Why is it when I ask a
bro.
question you don't answer, but you can ask me
No,
other
because
questions?
The thing is, we're talking about
No.
Palestine. Now you're bringing South Africa.
But you brought Lee Rigby in, so I'm bringing in something else, which is detached, and I'm asking you
But
a
you
question.
haven't justified
So
your
why
side.
do you run away from the question, but I'm not allowed to?
I will answer you. No problem.
Okay, please. Please do.
No problem. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying to you here and now. Yeah. If you're saying that what differentiates, because I'm just following your argument. You're saying what differentiates.
Can you just answer my question? I've answered every question
You
you've
haven't
asked
cleared
me.
this topic
You
up.
haven't cleared this
Yeah, we're not leaving the topic. I'm just trying to add more context.
I'm just saying.
So I'm asking.
Look, please, Joseph.
You can't just ask me. I'm surrounded by people who are hostile to Israel for one.
If anyone here says anything to you, yeah, I'll give you protection.
Listen to the dynamic of
I
the
will give
conversation,
you
yeah?
protection.
Just
Okay.
listen to the dynamic of the conversation.
there was an IDF soldier
Listen
here.
to the dynamic of the conversation. Listen to the dynamic of the conversation. I say something, then other people jump in and say, answer the question, do this, do that. I am outnumbered. I have answered. I believe I've answered it several times.
Fine, Joseph, no problem. I'm just saying, you said that. I'm just answering your answer.
Why won't you answer my
No
question?
problem. I'll answer your
Okay,
question,
thank you.
right? I'll be completely honest with you. My knowledge of South African politics is not that good. Fellas, I can't answer the question because I don't know. I don't. There is a discussion there.
Okay, do you know the argument? Are you aware?
No, I'm aware of the fact that he took out arms and these things and all, and he
who
went to
did they
prison
target?
and all those things.
And who did
now,
they
for
target?
me, I don't have enough knowledge of that department of South African politics to make a judgment call on that. So I'm going to abstain from making it. I don't need to give you the
So
answer.
why do you educate yourself to such a depth about the Jews but not other conflicts like in South Africa?
Well, I do about
apartheid?
South Africa. I'm not as.
I mean, that is what when people talk about apartheid,
Are
which
you
everyone's talking about.
So that's a completely ridiculous thing.
No.
I don't have knowledge of everything, my friend.
No, but
are you going to hold me to account for what I don't
you
know?
talking about apartheid or like apartheid Israel? I've heard you say that Israel's an apartheid state.
I
So you must have researched what apartheid is and where it came from.
Yeah, but look.
So then you understand what the conflict was that you.
What in South Africa?
Yeah, you must understand that
I know
Mandela
the
took arms
conflict.
against the
Yeah, I understand
apartheid
that.
regime.
Yeah. No problem.
And what was it? Who did he target? Why do most people say?
Look,
Why do most people say he's not a
Why are we
terrorist?
talking about Mandela?
Okay, why are we talking about Lee
Let's talk
Bigby?
about Martin Luther
Why
King.
are we talking about Lee Bigby?
Let's talk about Malcolm
Why
X.
are we talking about Lee Bigby?
Because you're saying that's not terrorist.
And I'm giving it another example. If you don't understand,
No problem.
You've been
I'm-
hypocritical.
this is called bullying. This is actually bullying. You basically.
We're just asking for logic.
Okay, don't put it. Don't put it. No.
I'm saying, I'm
Leave
just
him, leave him.
asking
And so you bring Lee Bigby, and I bring apartheid. Yeah.
No, that's not what happened.
No problem. Hey, no, fine. Joseph, say what you want to say. Go ahead. I don't want to bully.
Okay.
I'm not bullying anyone.
No, it's not you as an individual. It's when you're outnumbered and
Don't worry.
That's what you mean.
Give him
So
1
he's an outnumber
minute.
you.
Give him 1 minute to say whatever
That's
he wants
already
to say.
two, but.
Give him 1 minute to say whatever he wants to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so you brought Lee Bigby to try and provide context and comparisons, yeah? To say, is there an equivalence?
Yeah, 'cause it's
And
something
so
that-
then I did the exact same with South Africa,
Yeah.
and you said, no, I don't want to talk about South
No, I
Africa.
didn't say I don't want to talk about it. I said my knowledge of it is not good enough for me to make a judgment call on it. On that particular topic of whether Mandela was a terrorist or not. I don't know.
Why do you and so many other Muslims concern yourself so much with the Israel-Palestine conflict that you know dates and fatalities of something that happened over 80 years ago or 70 years ago?
Why not? Why do you know? Why do you do the same thing?
Why? No, because I'm Jewish. It's not, because I'm Jewish.
So I'm Muslim.
That's in the past. It's no longer a problem.
We're Arabs.
I'm Muslim. So what you just said doesn't make sense. Like,
It makes absolute sense.
I'm well aware of English history as well. I can give you the names of all the kings that existed from William the Conqueror until the present day, if you want. But
Every
but
single
you know, it's
person.
not-
Do you know
but
what
it's
it
not
is?
just-
Mohammed, do you know what it is? Every single Muslim in this park has an opinion on Israel-Palestine.
So what?
Very few have an opinion on Eritrea. Very few have an opinion on Sudan. Very
I
few
do.
have an opinion
I
on
just-
Central African
I
Republic.
I do.
And it's because it's Jews involved.
No, well, I mean, I'll be honest with you.
It shouldn't be a religious
Maybe
war,
you're
though.
right.
You're shaking your head, but why? What's the difference between this conflict?
Joseph,
Syria's bloodier,
Joseph,
Afghanistan's
Joseph.
bloodier, Iraq's bloodier.
Nice. You're right. Maybe
have opinions.
I spent some time talking about Rohingya. I actually went to Cox's Bazar myself, which is the border of Burma. Yeah. I tried to understand that conflict more. The Central African Republic, you're right. There's a lot of things going on there. Rwanda, it's not a Muslim country per se, but 94. The crisis in Rwanda is very much not in the minds of many people, including yourself. You have never mentioned Rwanda. You talk about genocide, but when was the last time you mentioned Rwanda?
So I don't talk about genocide. I talk about the Holocaust because that affects my
Okay,
people.
fine, but see here, the Holocaust affects your people. You've just given the answer that you're criticising me for.
No, 100%. I'm saying my bias, and I've said it consistently, is that I'm Jewish and I care about Jewish survival.
So then why are you asking me? Why
Because
is
you're
about
not
Muslims?
Palestine. Okay, so you're saying basically your interest in Palestine or the West Bank or Israel, call it what you want, is because you're Muslim.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. But also it's quite interesting.
Why is that important? There's so many
I don't know
Muslim
why you're
lands.
asking me about
Because
this.
there are so many Muslim
What's
lands.
this got to do with it?
Because there are so many Muslim lands that
Yes.
most Muslims don't give a damn about.
Like what?
Palestinians get so much. Like if I ask most Muslims today to explain the Eritrean conflict, or to explain.
By the way, Eritrea is not a Muslim majority country.
It's got a large Muslim
Yeah,
population.
maybe about 70% Christian. It's Muslim
I thought
minority.
it was like
No,
50-50.
No, it's about 30% Muslim. According to the
I think
official stats.
I'm Eritrean, 70% Muslims, but they.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it messed up stats, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it's Eritrean, so he's corrected me on that one. But according to the official stats, it's like 70%
Official
Christian.
stats, they do that.
It's wrong, yeah? Okay, he's right, maybe you're right.
But this
Okay,
is
look.
my point. You can tell me probably how many
government is
Palestinians
50-50.
live in the
But
West Bank. You can probably
there's 2
tell me
million
so much
Eritrean
about
Muslims that live in
Palestinians.
Sudan.
You don't even
There's
know that
200,000
Eritrea is a
in Saudi
Muslim
Arabia.
majority country.
No.
They're all
Show us the
Arabs.
fighters.
This guy's what do you call it? He's Eritrean.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
I'm saying, according to the official stats, it's not Muslim majority. That's what I'm saying. And who cares, anyways?
No, this is the point. My point is there's a disproportionate amount of interest in the Israel-Palestine.
Maybe I agree with that.
From the
I
Muslims.
agree with you.
Yeah. Muslim aid flows into Palestine.
I agree with that.
into
I
the
agree.
Palestinian
That I
Muslims.
agree. That I agree.
And this is the problem
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
This is the
No
huge
problem.
problem for me.
No, you're
because
right.
there's only one Jewish country in the world, a tiny speck of land.
Okay.
There are dozens
That
of
I
Arab
agree with.
and Muslim states.
Joseph, on that point, I would like to declare that I agree with you on that point.
Okay.
Thank you. Now let's move on to what I was talking about before you segued into all these kinds of non-issues.
No, they're huge issues because we're
No,
talking about
okay, fine.
interest in other areas like
You're
South
right.
Africa, and I was asking why is there, if you can't keep
But
up follow
Joseph,
the logic,
no problem.
That's
no problem.
fine.
But here's the statement I made, which you took a particular offence to, and I want to reiterate it, not just to cause offence to you, but to cause. So you
Not
know,
just you want to cause offence, but not just for that.
No, sorry.
Also,
not to cause offence to you, but I just want sometimes you got to throw the cats in with the pigeon. You got to throw the cats in with the pigeon. All right, listen. My point is this: we're talking about the inception of Israel in 1948. I'm saying to you, and I've presented this counterfactual history of imagine in 100 years' time, someone from, say for instance, the Islamic State survived, and someone, the great-grandchild of the Islamic State came here and he's justifying the existence of the Islamic State. And that person from the IDF, she said, she didn't really have a reservation with it. I was going to say to you as follows. If, I say this to you, the statement I made was that in 1946 there was a terrorist attack. In fact, there had been campaigns throughout the 40s by this group called the Urgun, which was a terrorist organization, and then it became absorbed into the country. It became absorbed into the IDF and the government, actually, the Israeli government. I said this was tantamount to, let's say for instance, Osama bin Laden blowing up the
your comparisons are so crass.
Okay, fine. We're not Osama bin Laden. Sorry, I shouldn't say this. Maybe the numbers are a bit disparate. So I'll say, look, 7-7.
6 million Jews were just slaughtered.
No problem.
6 million
No
Jews.
problem.
There's no comparison between this.
Listen. I'm saying to you,
Jews were fighting for their lives, fighting
you
for
are
our survival.
conflating the issues of Palestine with the issues of Germany.
No, I absolutely not.
Why are you?
There
why
was
are you doing
mass
that?
There was mass Arab migration.
I'm not talking
there
about
was mass-
Germany.
there
I'm
was
with you on
mass-
this issue.
There was mass Arab migration into mandatory Palestine at a time when Britain locked the doors and Jews were slaughtered in the Holocaust. It's very, very clear.
What's that got to do with Palestine?
Because the Arabs were allowed to flow in and the Jews were locked out.
Why are you blaming the Palestinians?
No,
for this?
the Jews were fighting the Irgun were fighting the British.
So do you accept that? Do you believe that they were freedom fighters?
So I believe the Irgun were fighting for. I don't like the term freedom fighter.
Were they terrorists or freedom fighters?
I wouldn't use either term. I say they were a paramilitary force.
And were they doing good or bad?
I think they were doing a mixture of things. There were Irgun people that did bad things. There were
No.
Irgun people
But you see here, if I said the same kind of thing about Al Qaeda,
because there's no comparison
No, there
between
is
the
a
Irgun and Al Qaeda.
Absolutely is
The
a-
Irgun were on most of the Irgun fighters.
Why is there no
most of the
comparison?
Irgun fighters had just escaped the death camps of Germany. They just escaped.
A lot of the-
Al Qaeda.
a lot of the
Al Qaeda are Islamists that want to conquer the world. There's no difference. There's there's no comparison.
There's no difference. You're right about
There's
that.
no comparison between the two.
No,
There's
no.
no comparison between the two. That's my friend. There's
Okay.
no comparison.
So you're saying there's no
between the two.
comparison?
If you think
I believe there is
Jews
a comparison.
fighting for their survival, and this shows the perversion
Why?
of your
the Haganah
outlook.
believe the same thing.
The
Are they
Haganah also.
perverted? Are they perverted?
Sorry.
The Haganah considered the Irgun a terrorist organization. Are they perverted?
The Haganah and the Irgun were in a power struggle, an internal power struggle.
No, but here, look, my position is that the Irgun which has become really the Israeli government.
And the Haganah didn't?
Well, it did, but not in the same way as
What are you
the Irgun.
talking about?
Well, hold on,
Who
hold
was
on.
the leader of
I'm
the
not-
Haganah?
Hold on. Let me finish.
was the leader of the
Let me
Haganah?
depends on what time you're talking about. Here was there one leader for the whole time.
Ben Gurion. Who's Ben Gurion?
Yeah, he was the prime minister.
And so who was
Yeah,
Menachem
hold on.
Begin? So both
So, yeah,
figures
okay,
in
fine,
both.
fine. But here the point I'm making to you is as follows, yeah? If you're finding it so hard to call this organization, the Urgun, a terrorist organization, because they fought for Jews, basically.
No,
But you find it
not
so
because they
easy.
fought for Jews. They are Jewish terrorists.
Why?
Baruch Goldstein is a Jewish terrorist. Baruch Goldstein went in the cave of the patriarchs in Hebron and gunned down Muslims at prayer. That is an act of terror. There is a huge.
So what, going into a hotel is not an act of terror and blowing people up.
It was a military base. It was the headquarters of a military force that
So
they were
it's okay.
fighting.
So it's okay then.
They were two military forces.
But the
fighting.
civilians that died there and got shot down, is that alright?
Any civilian death is tragic.
Is that terrorism or not?
I'm explicitly
But they
saying.
had guns and they were shooting them.
So again.
So is that right or wrong? They were not even Palestinians. they were
We're just literally going round in circles.
But you're
We're just
finding it
repeating.
difficult to answer
Not
this
at all. I'm answering every time you don't like my answer.
Your
There's a
point
difference.
goes back to the Rigby because he waited for him outside the military base. He came out of the military base.
So, and again, it comes down to motivation. Michael, someone say his name. Michael wasn't escaping a Holocaust. Michael wasn't fighting for the survival of an entire
he fighting
people. He was fighting for the Islamic State. Well, no, I don't know if it was the Islamic State, but
It didn't exist then.
he was fighting for Islamism. He was fighting.
What reasons did he give after he did it?
Why is that funny?
It's funny because
why is that funny?
when he,
Why
according to-
is
according
that
to-
funny?
according
It
to-
was religiously motivated. Religiously
It
motivated.
was politically motivated. According to him, it was politically motivated. So he came out. He said he had a knife in his hand.
This is the problem.
He had his hands blooded, and he said the reason why I've done this is because Britain is in these countries and that country in Iraq and this and that.
So you
it's
think there was
exactly
no
the same.
religious motivation?
Really, I believe, given the right context. Sorry, Joseph, but given the right context, you yourself might be tempted or swayed to do the kind of things that Erdogan was doing.
What are you talking about? No, it's just like, that's like me saying, oh, you might be a terrorist because you're a Muslim.
No,
It's
I'm
like-
not saying that
It's a
because-
disgusting thing to say.
No, no, no.
One, I'm a pacifist. One,
Are
I'm
you
a
a pacifist?
Yeah. One, I'm a pacifist. Two, I devote all of my time trying to build peace and bridges. That's like my entire shtick.
So how
I
can you
don't
be a
like-
pacifist that believes that there's no borders of Israel?
I'm saying the borders have never been agreed by either side.
So it's okay. War, the spoils of
No,
war
no.
go to either. So whoever.
When have I said that? See, you put
You
words
did
in my
say
mouth.
that.
No, I didn't.
You said that the borders are defined by the wars that are won.
So I'm saying, in the context of how nation states are born, that is the history of the nation
Okay,
state.
Joseph. So here, this is the problem. I want to say to you, listen. I'm not going to accuse you of being like a Jewish supremacist, because
Well, you just did.
No, I said I'm not going to.
Yeah. Okay, fine. But
So I said I'm not going to because some of the Jewish community, just like we have some people of other communities, they say, look, they say actually the Gentiles, they are not the chosen, they're second rate and these things, and we are the
Who says that?
chosen people.
Who
and
says that in the Jewish community?
You don't know that. That's
No, I'm asking you. Who says? Name one Jew that says that.
What?
What you just said.
The Gentiles are second rate.
Yeah.
Actually, it's part of the law.
Which
It's part
law?
of the Israeli law.
What are you talking about?
It's part of the Israeli
First and
law.
foremost, Israeli law is not Judaism.
No, I
So if you
understand.
can't make the
No, no,
differentiation.
no. No, but
so
it's-
first point, they're not the same thing.
Hold on,
Yeah,
hold on.
No.
You said who said that?
Yeah.
I didn't say Judaism. It's a Jewish community.
Okay. Okay, fine. You did. That's
Okay.
fine. That's fine.
All right. Anyway,
He's honest.
he's honest. He thinks it's that. Anyway, look,
Okay. No, which Israeli law says there's not equality between Gentiles and
Gentiles.
Jews?
It doesn't use the word Gentile.
What does it say?
There is. You're telling me? Hold on. Wait a minute. Wait. You don't want to go this.
I do.
You don't want to go there, my friend.
I do. You just.
Yeah.
I do want to go there.
Are you telling me right now, in your opinion, from 1948 up until 2018, which is what, 60 years? It's exactly 70 years.
70 years.
70
yeah.
years.
Coming up
In
to
this
celebration.
70 years, are you telling me that entrenched into the Israeli law at every given time and practiced by the Israeli government was an equality between Jews and non-Jews? Is that your opinion?
I'd ask you to give an example where it isn't.
No.
No, that is my opinion. I'd ask you to give an
No,
example where it isn't.
I'm really happy you think that.
No, so give an example where it isn't.
This is
No. Give me an example where it isn't.
No,
What
this is
Ethiopian
this
Jews
is
and Jews,
emba-
and there's no
this
difference
is
in law between
this is
Ethiopian Jews and-
embarrassing.
So instead of just insulting
I'm not
me,
going
give
to.
me an example.
Okay, I am. I'm going to give you an example. Here's the example. Example one. According to almost all mainstream left-wing news outlets like Haaretz, and I've made this point to you before, it's not the case that there's not been an inequality between Jews and non-Jews. There's not even been an.
I'm asking for a state law
Wait,
which
hold on.
discriminates
Let me-
against
let
Arabs.
me finish what I'm.
Not what a columnist in Haaretz says.
I haven't finished my point. That's, by the way, my premise wasn't the laws. I said the laws and the government's actions. That's what I said.
So
Okay?
give me an example.
So I'm giving you an example right now. At first, the law, okay, easy law, yeah, no problem. Immigration. A law was put down in the, I don't know when it was put down, that any Jew in any part of the world has the right to settlement in Israel.
And how does that discriminate against the Israeli Arabs that live there today?
Hold on. Because that gives an enhanced immigration status to Jews over non-Jews.
No, so again.
Huh? So
Again, so let's you said Israeli Arabs, yeah?
They're not called Israeli Arabs. They
No,
don't
they do call themselves Israeli
Who
Arabs.
calls themselves
Ishmael
Israeli?
Kaldi, a personal friend of mine who serves in the Israeli government.
Okay, you're
A
giving me
Bedouin
anomalous.
Muslim.
They call themselves Palestinians for the most part. Go ahead.
No, really? For the most part?
The government called it Israeli Arab.
Yeah, the government calls themselves.
Says which poll?
I've spoken to them myself, my personal friends.
Yeah, I've spoken to many
Go ahead.
thousands
Tell
of
me now. Tell me.
Palestinians or Israeli Arabs.
Okay, no problem. I'm asking you. You give me one law. The right to what's it called? Back to return law.
The right to the return.
It
yeah?
explicitly emphasizes that Jewish people have a right to return to, so they have a right to be in Israel, wherever they are in the world, over and above the right that would otherwise be given to a Muslim, for example.
So you have to.
So it's religious discrimination.
It's not religious
Of
discrimination.
course it
First
is.
and foremost, you can be a secular, non-religious Jew and still qualify
Okay, so
for
it's
the right of
ethnic
return.
discrimination.
Yeah, I would argue it's an ethnic discrimination. I personally don't like that because it's based on Nuremberg, which was our definition.
So you agree that this is a discriminatory law?
No, so again, within Israeli society,
You asked me to provide one law, now I'm giving it to you. What are you going to say about this?
I'm trying to respond.
Yes,
Okay.
go ahead, yes.
So, within Israeli society, there is not one law that discriminates against Arabs.
I've just told
or
you one.
Any but they don't. Any Jew who lives outside of Israel is not a citizen of Israel. We can agree that, yeah? Any Jew that lives outside of Israel,
They have ability to become a citizen.
they have the ability to become a citizen.
Immigration is
But so do-
religious discrimination based on ethnic religious groupings.
It's a mouthful. So I'll try and respond to your point.
Yes, yes,
So
go
any any Israeli Arab or any Israeli non-Jew.
I'll give you another law after this point. Go
Okay,
ahead.
that lives in Israel has complete equality with their Jewish citizens. It's enshrined in Israeli law. If you've ever been there, I don't know if you've been to the area, you'll see
I
every
don't think I could.
every,
They allow me.
every single, if you come with me, I can get you in and we can educate you on the reality rather than the propaganda you consume from Al Jazeera. If you ever actually went there, you notice all the signs are in English, Arabic, Hebrew. Arabic and Hebrew is everywhere. Why? Because Arabs are a recognised minority within them. All of their rights have to be protected. You have senior Arabs like Salam Gibran, who's the highest judge in Israel, who sends Jewish prime ministers.
You're just-
no,
no, no.
I'm coming onto it. I'm coming onto it. Jewish.
Bro, I'm just gonna move it a bit so I can just. There you go.
Okay.
It's not true, so I wouldn't use that one.
No, but now it's in the
Get
process
out,
of being
get out.
it's in the process of being
Okay,
Get out,
find
get out
the
of
law
there,
and your friend is no
I've
law
got
that
another one
says
for
that.
him after this one.
So
But he hasn't even. Look what he does. He asked me a question. Give me one example. I give him the example, and then he starts talking about some next.
You
matter.
said it discriminates against
Yes,
people,
it
yeah?
does. It's
The right to return for Jews. Do you know why it's there? Do you know what the purpose of that law is?
So get all the Jewish people. I don't know what the purpose of the law is.
The purpose of
But
the
what I
law.
can tell you
Can
that-
I give you
Hold
the
on,
purpose of the
hold
law?
on.
No, can I give
Go on, go on.
The purpose of the law is that Jews have been persecuted around the world. They've been chased out of the Muslim world, chased out of Christendom.
Chased out of Muslims.
Of course they have. Algeria, Egypt,
hold on.
Iraq, Syria.
Well, hold on. They've never been chased out.
They've been physically banned from Libya, expelled.
Wait a minute. They
haven't
haven't been chased out of the Muslim world. They have not been chased out of the Muslim world. Depends on what you're talking about. What country are you talking
So I
about?
just gave Libya as an example.
Libya, even Muslims have been chased out of that land.
Morocco's been great to the
Yeah,
Jews.
Morocco's been good.
I won't say any bad word. I'm not saying all Arab countries.
Even
I'm
now
not
when I
saying
went
all
to
Muslim
Muslim
countries.
There is an island, Jerba, they all Jewish there.
German, Tunisia, yeah, and they're still there until recently when they bombed it.
Obviously, Joseph, as you know, the majority of people when they left Egypt and they left these countries, they left them, those countries at the time of the war.
We get caught up in tangents. Well, I think we can agree that in some instances Jews were thrown thrown out of Muslim countries, another instance that they were protected.
And I'm sure you would be able to agree also that certain Muslims were kicked out of it and Palestinians were kicked out of their land.
So I would say in 2 cities I'm aware of, Lod and Ramla, and I can give the context of why, but outside of that, I disagree. That's another argument.
Was it read out?
Can we just say...
It's a whole law.
What's it called? The law?
Massive. It's like what's the law called? The actual law is called the Israeli Land Laws Amendment Number 5771 in 2011.
So you're only allowed to give and to
So
Jewish.
basically, basically not allowed to sell land or lease for more than 5 years.
It's common and the same like something. You hear that? It's on YouTube.
Is it Jewish?
Yeah, no, it says foreign. It says foreign. So
Well, how do they define a foreigner? You have to find how to define a
ownership
foreigner.
rights.
Can we say it like? Is it?
No, but let's stick with the right to return. So I'm saying to you
So
now,
can I just finish my
immigration
point?
status. Now think of it this way, my friend. Listen, Joseph. Please, because I've let you
I never finished my answer.
Go ahead.
You asked me to explain it, and I'm explaining it from
go
a Jewish perspective.
Under the law,
And so-
foreigners are basically whoever lives outside of Israel that's not Jewish or whoever not a citizen.
Not Jewish, huh? Okay, we're going to talk about that one. I like it. What's it called?
It's
Sorry, I'm educating myself here.
And
Sorry, I apologise.
can I also say one
So
of the
give me one law.
One of
Israel Land
the
Laws Amendment Number 4.
one of the things I don't like about debating Speaker's Corner is as a Jew you're always outgunned 1 to 100.
Say
Yeah,
again?
1 to 100. Whenever you come to Speaker's Corner as a Jew, you've got 100 Muslims. So you just got
Where's
basically-
100? Where's 100?
Look around you. How many Muslims are in Speaker's
Come on, man, they're not
Corner?
here for you. They're not here to attack you, my friend. I haven't seen you for 2 years or 1 year and a half.
So, to respond to your point, Jews have been chased and persecuted in so many countries.
keep saying
the right. You're saying that Jews haven't been massacred.
No, but that's not part of the issue that I had.
I'm trying to explain the right to return to you. If you want to understand the other side, the other perspective, you have to listen.
Everything you say starts with Jews have been persecuted.
Yeah, because that's the
Like
whole.
and when you wake up in the morning, your wife asks you for some food. So look, Jews have been persecuted.
I'm glad that's so funny. I'm glad that's so funny for you. I'm glad, Mohammed, that you find that so funny. I'm glad it's hysterical that my people have been persecuted.
That's not.
And every generation,
No.
we've been slaughtered by 6 million in the Holocaust. I
on,
lost
man.
family. My friends in the Muslim world were chased out.
Stop this.
No, because you're laughing at me. You're
but-
laughing
but
at
I'm
Jewish
laughing at you.
suffering.
I'm not laughing at
You're
you,
laughing at Jewish suffering.
Joseph, now you're. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm laughing at the fact you keep saying it. And I meant to joke
I'm glad
that
that's
imagine
funny.
you wake up in the morning.
I'm glad that's funny. I'm glad
your wife
that
says, "Go do the
every
dishes."
single Jew that's watching this will understand your mentality.
No, man, because
Every single Jew watching on
attacked.
YouTube,
Blacks have been attacked.
Every single Jew watching on
Rohingya
YouTube will watch you laughing at me saying
that.
that.
Rohingya?
I think what's happening there is tragic.
Yeah.
I believe.
So why have you not said in one sentence? Rohingyas have been abused. And
I've got a website dedicated to this, but you never asked me about it.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can work separately on this matter. I'm not joking. I'm only joking.
To understand Israel, to understand the right to return, you have to understand Jewish persecution. To laugh at Jewish persecution
No, I wasn't
shows that
laughing
you
at
don't
Jewish.
understand it.
Was I laughing at Jewish persecution? Or
You
is
were
that
laughing at me taking it seriously.
No. I'm laughing at you continually using the same sentence start. That's what I'm laughing at, yeah? Okay, so you were saying that Jewish people have been continually suffering. Go ahead. Let him, please continue.
So the right to
Get to the
return.
point, please. Go on, get sorry. Apologize.
Okay, so you laugh at me, then you dictate that I've got to get right to the point.
No, okay.
Beautiful.
Don't-
Let's just stick to the subject.
Masha,
This is
such-
not going
we say
nowhere.
mythos,
Joseph,
such
it's not going
character
nowhere. Let's
traits.
just
Okay,
get
I
back to the
apologize.
topic.
Go ahead.
To understand. It's fine. Actually, it's fine.
No, you're going to say this. He wants to laugh as well.
He doesn't want to laugh.
I don't want to laugh, mate.
No.
I don't want to laugh.
I apologize.
The thing
Go
is, I back you guys up all the time. Literally, you personally will back up to the EDL, will back up to the far right, because I have lots of followers on my channel from the far right, and every time I'll come to your defence, literally, and defend you personally.
I'm not laughing.
And to have you
No,
laughing
come on.
at me, actually, like,
Okay, I apologize. I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at the fact that you had the same sentence start over and over. Go ahead. Go ahead. You are making a point. I'll let you.
so to understand the right to return.
Sorry. You know we got love for you. All life is like that. It's just funny.
Imagine if you had a Palestinian here, yeah, Mohammed? Imagine if you had a Palestinian here.
Yeah, but we can see that as well. We
No,
can see what
Joseph, stop.
No, and I think
like
Muslim
that,
suffering's really
Yeah, but
important. That's why I campaign against
Why
Islamophobia.
would we
Joseph.
be angry? Let's smile and laugh about it.
Don't say to understand, just get into it. Go ahead.
So Israel, part of why it was born out of Jewish persecution, so there can never be another Holocaust. Israel, many Muslims believe that Israel was born because of the Holocaust. It's not. Like the Holocaust happened because there wasn't an Israel. Had Israel existed, there wouldn't have been 6 million Jews sent to their death. So for Jews, we believe it's essential that we have a homeland, so that we're not dependent on the benevolence, the kindness, the mercy of other people. So it's not, so it's not Muslims coming to our defense.
But what's the
So
British
it's
coming
not.
to the defense?
So it's not. Can I just finish a point? It's not the Ottomans rescuing us from the Inquisition. It's not the British rescuing us from whatever persecution we're experiencing in Europe. It's so that we can fight our own wars and defend our own people. And part of that is having a state where Jews can escape persecution.
So tell me, what's this got to do with the right to...
The right to exactly.
Joseph, just to repeat the question, I apologize. I'm giving you a chance. You just said to me, you made the very generic claim that actually there's no laws and there's no. I said to
discriminate against
I
Gentiles
said
in Israel.
I said to you that there's no. I said to you both the laws and the actions of the Israeli government from the very inception of Israel in 1948 in May up until this time, which is exactly 70 years. Have shown discrimination. Now, if you want to believe, I'm not saying you do believe this, but if you want to believe that Gentiles are superior, that Jews are superior, I'm not saying you believe in this, but I'm saying that if you want to believe as a matter,
Mate, this is so offensive what you're saying.
I'm sorry, hold on. I'm sorry.
The right to return is based on Jewish suffering.
Let me finish.
Nothing to do with Jewish supremacy.
Let me finish. I said nothing about anything right now. I'm just saying that if someone, a rabbi, wants to believe that the Jews are the chosen people, and that they have the priority to.
Mate, you're just you're turning into an anti-Semite.
No, it's not.
Jews don't believe they're chosen.
Hold on.
He's a Semite himself.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, great. Now you deny they're Jewish. Okay, call you Jew hater. You're turning into
By the
a
way,
Jew hater.
I did a.
You're talking about rabbis.
let me
You're
say-
saying they believe they're chosen.
No, I didn't say it. I said if. It's a conditional statement, okay? In English language. Anything with
It's
if.
like me saying if a Muslim is a paedophile or if a Muslim is a terrorist. It's offensive language.
Well, you have used that statement before. You said this before, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I've never said Muslims are terrorists.
No, I've never said that.
I've never said
Jews are
Muslims are
terrorists.
paedophiles.
I've never said this.
You're saying if a rabbi believes that Jews
No,
are
I said if look, the videos have got me. Yeah? I said if a rabbi or a Jew wants to believe that actually Jews are the superior, or that they have right to the land, or that Gentiles are second-rate, no problem.
Mate, who says this?
What you're doing is you're contemplating your there's a difference between first of all the idea of chosen which is nothing to do with ethnic or racial.
Okay, so how does it come about?
Okay, so the idea of chosen is
Are you a rabbi?
I'm not a rabbi, I'm a religious Jew.
A religious Jew. Come in the. Hi, my friend. Hello.
I speak. Hello, how are you doing? So, basically, there's this idea of chosenness. They say basically that we aren't chosen in the sense that we're better than everybody else. We're chosen to perform certain obligations, not just to ourselves but also to the rest of humanity.
But from my reading of
monotheism.
okay, you can correct me because
Spread
you might know.
mono-
You might
as
know.
Joseph just said, to
Excellent.
spread
What's-
monotheism. Stephen.
You might correct me if I'm wrong here. 'Cause I don't know. Yeah. But from my reading of the Old Testament, it seems to me that the chosenness of the Jews is more than what you've just described.
So what is it?
So in my reading of the Old Testament, it seems like God chose the children of Israel, selected them, okay? But not only this, that they are now not only the representatives of God on earth, if you like. Yeah. What's that?
By the way, this is Muhammad. Muhammad.
Oh, they're dancing there, yeah? Okay, sorry, there's some people there dancing.
Go to the police.
Sorry. What was I just saying? Anyway.
You're saying that in the Old Testament.
Yes. So even things like this, God repented to the Jews. That God has a wrestling match with Judah. and lost.
Had a wrestling match with Jews.
Jacob, sorry.
And
Jacob.
it doesn't
It
say
say
God,
God,
it
it
says
says it's an angel.
No, they said they wrestled.
It says a man. It says a man.
God
and it says
wrestled.
with
God wrestled with Jacob and lost the match.
And invaded Israel.
Ishmael is a wild horse. Or a
You're
wild
reading
donkey.
English translation, but
No problem.
But this
That's
is
why you
got
have to
nothing
deal
to
with
do
the
with.
English translation because
But what
me,
does this have to do with
what
being
I'm-
chosen?
What I see from the Old Testament reading is that really, and that's why you have interest laws which are.
Do you know who you sound like? You sound like Tommy Robinson.
Okay, no problem.
For my reading of the Quran, all the Muslims want to kill the kuffar. All the Muslims. That's what you sound like.
I'm here to be corrected. That's the difference between me and Tommy. Yeah.
But he's not saying anything.
I'm saying Stephen can correct me.
You being the chosen people.
I'm just
He's saying that
a
if-
central tenet of the Jewish faith seems to be the chosenness of the Jews, which separates them as an ethnic group above and beyond other ethnic
What
groups.
does the Quran say
About what?
the Jews being chosen?
So what we believe as Muslims is there's two kinds of verses that are referred to. Yes, we believe that Jews were chosen for a certain time and period, but it doesn't mean in terms of ethnicity that they're any superior or less superior than
You're
everyone
just showing your own insecurity then.
Moreover,
We don't believe that.
Hold on.
believe that, though.
We don't believe that. You may believe that we were chosen above other
the
tribes,
Quran also
other
says,
people. We
hold
don't
on,
believe that.
from a theological perspective, the Quran actually offers a challenge to the Jewish people who believe that they are chosen. You know this. Let me tell you the challenge. No, you asked and let me give an answer. There's two challenges. One is Surah Al-Baqarah, one is Surah Al-Jumu'ah. It says, if you think that you are the chosen people, above and beyond all other peoples, فَتَمَنَّوْا الْمَوْتِ. So opt for death. If you're in fact truthful. So in other words, if you believe that spiritually you have nothing to fear from the afterlife, why are you in this present world? Why don't you ask for death to come and strike you so that you can go
Such an
straight?
Islamic
Because
question.
that's not even a Jewish question.
That's not
I had
what-
to tell you this. That is like
Why-
so far
what are you
removed from
doing
it.
here?
Because the whole point
Ask for
of
death.
the whole point of our presence here.
Life is for death, did you just say?
I said, look, if you think that you don't really hear, you are chosen above and beyond all other peoples. Yeah?
We don't think that. You keep saying
You
we
don't
think
believe
that.
You don't believe that.
We don't know.
You don't,
We-
what is a Gentile? What is a Gentile?
Okay, do you want to know the English term, the Hebrew term for a Gentile?
Tell me what a Gentile is.
A goy. Do you know what the Jews are called in the Torah?
Go ahead.
A goy. Do you know what goy translates to?
Go ahead.
Nation.
Okay, so what are
Goyim
Gentiles?
is nations.
So what are Gentiles?
Gentiles are just non-Jews.
Okay, so-
or
so-
Jews.
so why
it's just
are-
a word that describes
What is
nation.
the distinction? Are you telling me here? Sorry, because
Okay, so
I mean,
can I explain something?
no, hold on. Even in interest,
So I'm going to answer your question. So
are you? Is there no law, in your opinion, that differentiates a Jew from a Gentile?
There's loads of laws that differentiate. Just like within Islam, there's
Yes,
laws that
yes.
differentiate. Muslim, but it doesn't
Yes,
mean
but the
Muslims are
Jew-
superior.
but hold on.
It doesn't mean that
But
Muslims are chosen.
Jews are ethnic groups. Not you just said it yourself.
No.
The difference. Hold on. The difference between the Muslim laws and the Jewish laws is that every race is.
Can you
Islam is.
convert-
Hold on.
We
Islam
have the you have the Ummah. It's the same.
No, hold on. Islam is a racially inclusive
So
religion.
is Judaism.
So
Okay, no,
You have black Jews,
No,
white
I know
Jews,
you have
Chinese
that, but
Jews.
they're not treated very well, are
They're
they?
treated exactly the same.
Oh,
in
really?
religious-
Come on, man. Don't go there, man. Don't go there,
the
man.
other thing is like if tomorrow you decided that you wanted to convert to Judaism,
Inshallah, there's hope for you.
yeah, you can be
I
the
don't
deacon
know,
also.
but
All
even
you need
that-
to do is
even
take the
conversion-
Shahada.
Can I finish?
Shahada.
Can I
Even
finish what I want
conversion
to
is
say?
not easy.
So it's not easy. Why? Because I'll tell you why
Yes,
conversion is
go
not
ahead.
easy. Because if you want to accept the truth, you have to accept people that only accept Judaism because they acknowledge the truth.
Say this again.
If people are converting to Judaism because they accept that Judaism is true.
Okay.
So there's many people that would convert, for example, where maybe they fell in love with a Jewish girl or a Jewish guy, or there's other reasons. Maybe they think they're going to get more money. I don't know what funny ideas people have about Jews. So that's why we make it difficult. It's also because, and for a different reason as well. That's one reason. The second reason it's difficult is because, and it ties back in with your question, is we believe that God gave basically 7 laws to all of humanity, and they're called the Noahide laws. And to Jews, he gave an extra 606 laws, and there's what if you've heard of the 613 mitzvot. So basically, we believe like the 613 mitzvot,
Commandments.
613 commandments. So basically, you as a non-Jew, obviously you have your own religion which forbids you from doing certain things.
So it's inter-
Now this is what
This is a conversation within Judaism as well, what you're saying.
Let me ask you. Let me
I
ask
want
you.
to ask you a really good question.
Let me
You're
ask
asking good questions, but can I explain? That's it's a very.
And also-
Can I just explain?
You can only do Jews through the mother side.
No, you can convert. You can convert.
So
But
can
you
I
know
just
what?
finish
Can I
answering?
ask you another
Can I finish answering the first question?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So the thing is, like, if you take a non-Jew and you ignore Muslims, talk about Christians. Right now, when a Christian person, or we can say the same to Muslims, you're allowed to eat shellfish. We're not allowed to eat shellfish. So now, if you decide to go home and have a prawn cocktail, you're not doing anything wrong. But if you become a Jew, then suddenly you'll be sinning against God. And what the problem would be, the reason we don't encourage people to convert, can I finish the point? The reason we don't encourage people unless they're absolutely 100% sincere is because someone who converts and then changes their mind and goes back to their old ways, at the moment, you eating a shellfish sandwich, you're not doing anything wrong. If you become a Jew and you eat shellfish, you've sinned.
the other huge
Do you mind if I just ask a question? Let me ask you a straightforward question. And this is actually me genuinely asking a question I don't know the answer to. This is not a chess move. It's genuinely not a...
I want to trust you.
No, it's not. Here's my question. You're saying that, as far as I'm concerned, you're saying that Judaism and the Old Testament corpus, in general, encourages a racial equality. Yes, what you're saying. Yeah?
The words of the Bible,
So
when it describes the creation of Adam, the first human being, it says he was created with Tselem Elohim, which means in the image of God. So we believe that every human being, no problem, is equal and has an image and a spark of holiness
You would
inside.
say that racism is a bad thing?
Of course.
Okay, no problem. Can I just seriously, I just want to ask this question. Yeah? Can you give me one explicit statement in the Old Testament corpus which says or challenges racism?
I just gave it to you. It says,
No, that's not challenging racism. It's saying that Adam was
So
created in the image of
can I
God.
just respond to that? Race is a construct of the 20th century. Yeah?
No, I don't believe that's true. Race has always been part of life.
No, there's been people with different skin colours. In the Jewish tradition, we were a tribal people. You had different Jews, and particularly in later history,
They don't want the evidence.
they began to intermarry with different communities and took on different racial characteristics.
No problem, but I was
But Judaism doesn't say anything for or against race because it's not.
You're wrong. He's a Jewish, you are Christian. First he said, Bible, you don't just say Macham Shalom, Macham Etiru Lamoa. Inech Hashtarem, Avot Tomarem Shalom. As you are Jewish man, you have the Torah, David, why you say the Bible? So that you're Jews, we don't believe the Bible. We believe the Torah. We believe the Bible. Why you sitting in the Bible?
because that's an English word.
No. We don't connect.
Exactly. So this
you have to say in Torah, no, shut up. You have to say in Torah who the Jews books, and he can talk about the Bible as a
A beloved brother was there.
So as I was asking, right? I'm just to let you know, right? If you ask me, where does it say in the Quran and the Sunnah that race is not an issue? Where does the Prophet Muhammad challenge race? I can easily get you like extract of that, yeah, where he challenges racism, like someone saying to someone who's a black man that you're a son of a black woman, like Bilal, and then the Prophet reprimanded him for that, for example. And the Quran says, "Inna akramakum 'inda Allah atqakum." And the Prophet Muhammad says, "La fadla li'arabiyyin."
I want to respond with all those things.
بين عربي وعجم إلى بالتقوى. There is no difference between someone who speaks Arabic and someone who don't speak Arabic, only conditioned by law and condition.
So it says here, there's no difference between an Arab and non-Arab, or a black person or a white
القرآن
person.
الكريم هذا لا فرق بين عربي وعجم بالتقوى.
Okay, so anyway, so this is not Quran, this is Hadith. At the same time now, these are things I can cite. So if you say, where does the Quran and Sunnah challenge racism? Easy, yeah? There's no difference between a white man or a black man or Arab or non-Arab, except for God consciousness or piety. Now, is there an equivalent in the Old Testament?
Okay, so it does say, you wouldn't expect, as Joseph said, race is a 20th or 19th century construct.
Why do you say it's
because you wouldn't expect to find that exact word or a Hebrew
if it was,
translation of it.
you see, look,
because
if
there's no,
it was 19th century, well, how could the Prophet say
because what you just said is there's no difference between an Arab and a non-Arab.
No, I said no.
He didn't. As I understood your translation of the Arabic, he didn't use the word racism. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not saying racism.
Yeah,
I'm not saying, okay.
I'm saying you wouldn't expect
I'm just
to find
saying,
that
where does it? Where do we see?
Okay, so I want to give you an example.
Yes.
So it says, don't oppress the stranger. Remember that you were strangers in the land of Israel.
But the stranger is not referring to the race of the person.
It's referring to anybody who's not Jewish.
How do we know that? No, and don't oppress them is not the same as saying that they're the same in terms of racial equality.
Well, oppression is a type of behaviour.
I'm just
don't
my
behave differently to someone. What happens?
Yeah, no, you're right. Now, the meat is no.
Okay, so if you're allowed to feel that way, if other people told you to feel that way, you don't write it out, then that's the wrong
I've read religious doesn't really care what you feel. Which give examples of supposed racism.
Of course, okay. What I'm saying is
things like
because we believe that if you behave in a certain way,
but the only one to say I don't want to because my modus operandi is not to attack Islam, and I don't want to make enemies. And most of the places I read this is places like answering Islam and people who have a very strong agenda.
Fine, but don't read it from there.
But what I wanted to say, is an absence of something isn't evidence of something else.
No, I'm not saying it is.
So
I'm saying arguing from ignorance. I'm not saying it's that.
Our proof you rejected, you didn't like it, but that is the traditional Jewish understanding.
I'm just saying.
The traditional Jewish understanding is all men are considered B'Tselem Elohim and we're all equal. And it goes as far as saying all people. It goes all racist. It doesn't talk about race. I'm trying to answer it. It says all people are equal and all people that do good deeds go to Olam Haba, the world to come.
Okay,
so you don't have to be Jewish to have a portion in Jannah. In Islam,
there's no Jannah.
There's Olam Haba.
Yeah, so which is not Jannah.
Jannah is Jewish. Then we don't need no one to come our religion.
No.
Is it Astaghfirullah?
What's the expression? In Judaism, we want no one to come to our religion.
So here, look. As far as I know, in the principles of jurisprudence in our religion, right? In for example, transactional things, everything is haram. So everything is halal, yeah, which means allowed, except that which is mentioned is haram. So if, for example, I want to eat a prawn shellfish sandwich, yeah, I could do that in Islam because there's nothing that really says it's haram, yeah, this is wrong. Now I'm not sure how it works in your in Jewish law, but I suspect
similar process.
Similar process, no problem.
We have a specific prohibition that we are not allowed to eat from the sea.
Right.
Anything that doesn't have fish.
So for example,
some Muslims say that as well.
Yeah, I know.
Hanafis say that,
But I'm not talking about this. I'm talking about, so for example, if Judaism or if the Old Testament doesn't say something is prohibited, then by virtue of by extension, we should say that actually it's allowed. Yeah.
But first of all, I don't know. You can make that as a general principle. As a general principle, but what you have to also understand is there's actually 4 layers and 4 different ways of reading. I don't know how it works in terms of understanding Torah. In terms of reading and understanding the Torah and the Tanakh, the text of the Old Testament. We have 4 different layers of reading and understanding. So literally, you may look through the text and not find something literal there, but in the further commentaries and further understanding, it will be explicitly referenced. It will say this passage refers to Muhammad Hijab, depending on whatever the principle is.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but you agree of this principle of legalism which states at its core that actually everything in terms of transactions, not in terms of worship, so it's quite similar to what we believe in, is allowed until it's explicitly mentioned that it's
not mine.
Not
It's his,
yeah. Is this what I
just see that. You see that, yeah?
So if that is the case,
I saw him
then unless we want to find something in the Old Testament that says specifically that racism or differentiation of people based on race is wrong, morally incorrect, or there's some kind of reprimand from Moses or any other of the other prophets, then we are to assume that racism is an acceptable attitude.
Okay, so I resist that anywhere in the Quran does it say that you can't have relations with a girl who is 13 years old?
Wait a minute, what are we talking about, racism or
no,
13 years old?
You're talking about positive legalism. 13 years old. The reason I'm saying it, because I'm not going to say that all Muslims believe that they can have relations.
We'll talk about that, no problem, but focus on what I'm saying, then we'll put that as an asterisk, we'll put it in the bottom footnotes, and we'll come back to it. It's very relevant, but let's address it.
Okay, what Joseph's trying to say is that you're essentially, in philosophical terms, trying to have your cake and eat it. You're trying.
I'm talking about race.
You're trying to talk
The
about.
whole discussion-
You're trying to apply a principle in one area that you don't apply in another.
You're trying to show that in Islam,
I'll answer your question.
you're trying to say
No,
within
but you're
Islam,
answering the question with a
you're
question.
trying to say within Islam,
Very Jewish people.
You have a great hat and your shirt
trying
is
to
beautiful,
say-
but there's
you're trying to say within Islam, there is a precedent that there's a law which forbids racism, and you're saying because you haven't found an explicit mention of discriminating against race, that's racism is permissible within Judaism.
I'm not. I'm asking.
And we're saying it categorically isn't
Okay, can you give me
because of the
evidence?
concept of B'Tselem Elohim. All men are created equal. So when you go through Jewish law, can I extend that? When you go through Jewish law, for instance, there's laws to do with whenever there's a law, for instance, it's forbidden to steal. And it's forbidden to steal from a Jew or a non-Jew because we believe B'Tselem Elohim, everyone is created in the image of God. What you then? Can I finish my point? The only instance where this is overruled, where a law that applies to a Jew no longer applies to a Gentile, is where it explicitly states that. So, for instance, usury, which is the one you brought up, ribbit, which is interest. They call it interest being charged on a loan. It explicitly states that you can't charge a Jew. If it didn't say you can explicitly can't charge a Jew, then it would apply to all people. So with Jewish law, unless it explicitly states this is only for Jews,
Jewish by ethnicity.
Jewish by religion. Judaism is a really interesting. So Jews, we believe we're a people, we're a land, and we're a religious system like a Sharia or a Deen. So it's those three things. Religion is almost like a Christian concept, and it doesn't really apply to us.
Can you guys treat me as an ignorant here? Yeah, in the sense that, let's say you guys are the knowledge, and I am you guys are the teacher now, and I am the student. Okay, so don't attack me because when you attack a student, he doesn't learn. Okay. I'm asking a simple question. B'Tselem Elohim, which is man is created in the image of God. He translated it as man and all men are equal. That translation is nowhere found in any of the English Bible.
Okay, so
Hold on.
First of all, the English translations, Christian translations, are notoriously unreliable.
You're talking about Christianity
No,
rather
but no issues. Not even. I mean, I would ask you to tell me where any rabbinical exegete, any rabbinical exegete has said B'Tselem Elohim entails, yes, that Jews, as an religious grouping, are equal to, for example, Arabs. Is there anyone that said that?
Almost every rabbi. It's right down to the concept where we have Olam Haba, the world to come. We say it's not. We're the only religion that says that anybody can go to. Everyone can go to paradise. As long as they're a good person. Whereas within Islam, it discriminates.
I'm not talking. Please. I'm not talking. First and foremost, let's not conflate the word paradise with what we have. We all believe in. Jannah is not the same. You don't believe like. As far, once again, you can correct me, yeah. But as far as my reading of the Old Testament goes, I have not seen that there's anywhere in the Old Testament where heaven or hell are explicitly mentioned.
No, they're not.
They're not.
That's an actual principle of Judaism.
Thank you.
And can I explain to you why it's not mentioned? Because so that we serve out love for God and not because of the reward.
No problem, excellent. But then you cannot say explicitly that such places exist. Like, we believe in heaven. Muslims and Christians believe in heaven.
Sorry, our religion is more than the Old Testament or the Tanakh. It's more than. It's also the Talmud.
Yeah, I understand. But even then,
That's all over the Talmud.
no, hold on. But we're talking. The Talmud is the legal rulings and consensus of the.
Not only that.
Yeah, but
I mean, you've been listening to my videos because mine's a fringe opinion within Judaism. That's what I like. My
So what is it?
So it contains the oral law, which was given to Moses at Sinai. It's the court notes from the legal rulings, which it definitely is. But the fact that you responded with that, well, Hashem, I made Muslims my monotheism. It's a sorry, Jewish joke. Jewish politics. The Talmud contains the oral law, the court rulings. It contains a lot of sayings and parables from the rabbis at the time of the Mishnah.
Explaining historical events, like for example, what happened to Moses after he left Egypt before he redeemed the Jewish people, he went to Africa, for example.
So within there it talks about
Stories about
that's
And the legal links, etc. Everyone agree with that.
and that's largely where we get Allah Akbar
No
from.
problem. But what I'm saying to you is, taking a step back and asking the original question. I can cite you no less than 3 or 4 different places in the Quran and Sunnah, 5 or 6, a handful, a dozen of places where it's explicitly mentioned that being offensive to someone, or what we call pre-Islamic ignorance.
Maybe that's because it's a problem
No.
that Muslims suffer from the Jews did.
No, hold
So
on.
you think
No,
it's up to me?
please.
It didn't have to be me.
I'm just saying, pre-Islamic ignorance, right? So here, I think racism is racism is something which is universal.
So
Yeah?
how do you explain to me? Because you said that,
So I just
you
want
said
to
that
know. I
Islam-
was just wondering.
you said that- okay, so you said that Islam's opposed.
I know there's different groups.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know. I'm not saying I'm one. You asked me last week. You asked me
We correct each other.
Okay,
The whole point process of learning.
so, as I understand it, in Islamic jurisprudence,
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
non-Muslims are not able to give evidence in a court against Muslims.
So here, before we move on to the distinction between Muslims and non-Muslims, the premise I put forward is that races are all equal. Like one individual race, one person of one individual race is not higher or lower than another person of any individual race. So me as an Egyptian, for instance, yeah. And by the way, I've done this ancestry test. You know the thing when you go, and I had 5%. I had 5% Jewish. I had 5%.
That's why you're so smart.
But I also had, I had a good mix. I had like almost 20% West African. And these things. Anyways, having said this, right? I was gonna say to you that actually I think it was 24%, but it's not of Jewish, West African, some sort. What I was gonna say was that here, if you agree that discriminating on someone based on their race or treating someone differently or thinking that you're better than them because they're from a different country of origin, which was the result of the accident of birth, yeah, that's a bad thing and it ought to be challenged. My question is, if that's the premise, if we both agree on that same premise, because you can say, I don't agree with that premise, and it's your right to say that. And you can corner me by saying, prove it objectively outside of a religious framework, which will be difficult. Okay. However, if I agree with that premise, if you agree with that same premise, then I would say to you, the Quran and Sunnah are very clear that there's no superiority of a black person over a white person, or an Arab over an Arab. And the Prophet challenged directly people that were anti-Jew. Did you know that? For example, Hafsa, who was the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Prophet Muhammad married a Jew called Safiya bint Hyde. He married
Khadija bint Watba.
When he married Safiya bint Hyde,
the one after the war when he executed.
her husband was
That's a law called
yeah, let's not get into time.
Good example.
I heard a story.
Someone just showed us a really good point.
No problem.
Who was Moses' wife?
We got an example of what you asked.
Moses'
wife was
married a black woman.
No issues. No, and we believe Moses was black, so that makes it even better. And there's no problem. Anyway,
Who's we? The Muslims. Muslims believe Moses was black.
Yeah, dark skin black. Not like white like you. No way. No prophet was like your color.
So
in the Middle East.
so was
Like, you know what?
Was Muhammad
You have to know.
This guy showed
amazing, Jesus Christ. Slave is not black. At the time, slave is discrimination to sell people. Doesn't matter white or black or nothing to do with it.
So let me just. So when Hafsa said something about Safiya, he said to her, you're Jewish. You are the son. You're the daughter of a Jewish person. So the Prophet he corrected Hafsa, and he corrected this what he would call the modern anti-Semitism. He said actually. he said, you are the daughter of a prophet and you are tahti Nabi. You're also under the small umbrella.
Yes, a bigger one to share, you know what's going on?
So you're also, you're married to a prophet.
I remember that next time it's raining here, bro. Getting right, yeah?
The same thing with Ibn Rabah, who was a black man, who was attacked by Abu Dhal al-Ghafari, who was an Arab. He said this hadith. So when he was attacked by him,
About an hour, bro.
Abu Dhal al-Ghafari,
Maybe more actually, maybe more.
No, he mentioned
attacked him
2 hours.
by a black woman.
Yeah, I might be
The
more than
Prophet was
that.
very angry with him and he corrected him.
Who's there before me?
The Jahiliyyah of the Islamic Arabs. And now, so he corrected the racism. So not only, the Quran says, and that's certainly Allah. And the Quran says, he says that, he talks about the different colors of the creations, that from the different people as well, you have different colors. وَإِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. That certainly the ones who have piety of Allah, they're the ones who fear God. And they're the ones who know. So in other words, there's enough in the Islamic corpus, in the Quran and the Sunnah, to show that racism, or the idea of thinking yourself superior over another race, is an abhorrent, ignorant, pre-Islamic idea. Now I'm just asking, is there an equivalent in the Old Testament like that?
Yes. Numbers 12. Can I read it for you?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Numbers 12. Miriam and Aaron, Moses' brother, opposed Moses over him marrying a Cushite from Hyde, is a black person. It's in the Torah, it's not the Cush. Yeah, Cush. Okay, so that's a good for you. Miriam was banished for 7 days for opposing, for being racist, basically.
Okay, no, but here, this is talking about marriage, yeah? So all we can extrapolate from this is that as a Jew, you're allowed to marry a Cushite. And by the way, a lot of Cushites are Jews anyways. No?
No. In this case, she wasn't a Jew. She wasn't a Jew.
Okay, at any rate, what this shows is that you can marry a Cushite, and in the same book Numbers,
they discriminate against her for not being a Jew and for being a Cushite, a black woman.
Okay, so where does it say, don't talk about her being a black woman?
Listen.
No, where does it say? Can you read it?
Look. He married a Cushite.
No, let me read it.
Okay.
Let me read it out. Sorry.
When it says a Cushite, it's defined as a black woman.
Hold on. Let me read it.
So you're looking for something explicit about
Is Aaron the prophet here, yeah?
Yeah, it's Moses' brother.
No problem. And you believe he was a prophet as well?
Yeah.
Okay, no issue. Can I just read it out? Because he made a point.
No, because I just want to make a point before you read it out.
No, hold on.
You're telling us, like,
yes.
You're basically building a straw man, Muhammad.
What we're telling you, we're telling you
what a mainstream Jewish belief is. I'm not saying there aren't Jewish racists. There are some Muslim racists as well, I'm sure.
Judaism I'm talking about Judaism.
Yeah, so we're talking about the religion.
Judaism views the world as tribes in this period, and the Cushites were a tribe. The Israelites were a tribe, but they were made up of 12 tribes within that. And so one of the characteristics, racial characteristics, so to speak, of the Cushites were they were black. And so Judaism doesn't see colour. This is why it's so frustrating when I argue with black Hebrews or black Israelites. It's because
explain to him there is nothing called Judaism. Judaism has been leaded by Golda Meir. We call them al-Yahudiyya, Din al-Yahudi. Judaism even exists by Golda Meir. She make it like we have IC, we have the shit now, we have the bullshit now. Same. He's been making by Golda Meir. Nothing called in the Torah.
And you know that
nothing called Judaism. That is not al-Yahudiyya. Jewish. Yahudiyya. Judaism, nothing to do at all in the Torah, in the book of Torah. Explain to them. Open the Torah and you would. Judaism is only being dyed by Golda Meir, being dyed by the Bank International. All people, the riches, they want to make money after they had a religion. Thank you. And the end, he is Jewish. I can talk to him and believe he's not Jewish. I really, it doesn't matter if he put that, I really don't believe it. And the end, who's the father? It's Abraham. Al-Khalil. Who's the cousin? It's Ishaq and Ismail. They still the Jewish, they're still cousins. They're lovely people. Thank you.
So Miriam was given leprosy in punishment for her racism.
Where does it say that?
She was, brother, look, I'm not going to make it up. I know you're going to
No, I want to see
I'll show you.
statements.
I'll show you.
I just want to understand.
Jewish.
Yeah. Show me what it says.
Right, so he was angry at them for opposing Moses for marrying a Cushite, an Ethiopian, a black woman. Right, so that defines her as a black woman, a Cushite. Now the punishment. When a cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. So she was given leprosy.
No, but hold on, that doesn't show
No,
me.
read this. Read the whole thing.
No, but it doesn't say
Can I say
forward you
Mohammed,
to
you said that you had a question and you genuinely wanted
leprosy. This is
Mohammed, you
Leprosy.
said Mohammed, you said you had a question and you genuinely wanted to know the answer. But I actually don't think that was genuine.
No, I don't know.
No, I think you were just basically that was an instance of attempting what I consider religious supremacy. In the sense that you said, can you show me anywhere in the Torah?
Okay, if you
no,
don't
can I just finish? And you then said, look what it says in the Quran. It talks all about racism and how you can't be racist. And can you find that in your book? And that wasn't a sincere question. That was basically religious supremacy.
Okay, if you believe, no, but hold on, Joseph. That's fine. If you want to believe it's religious supremacy, if it wasn't sincere, that can be your opinion.
We've answered the question.
All of you guys have tried to answer the question. I'm happy with
You tried and you've won because you're the religious supremacist and it still comes out on top. Mashallah.
You come to agree with us. Anyways, on that note, guys, I think we're done. Jazakallah khair, thank you. I'll see you guys later.
That wasn't
no evidence. It's in the book.
That was your
It's in the
attempting
book. What do you
Dawah.
mean no evidence? Listen.
That's what I'm saying.
I know you're clever.
The Bible strike's still on them.
Yeah, no, I'm doing that.
You just said you're right now and you're backing him up.
He's neutral. They're neutral. They're very good.